Hello and welcome everybody to the latest edition of the Buy Round interview show. Today I'm joined by quite a remarkable person, somebody that's been in and around the game for a few decades now without giving too much age away. Dual Premiership winning CEO, lots of a few different clubs along the way across Australia and England, and plenty of other things happening as well. Really interested to get into the weeds of what makes a successful organisation. None other than Shane Richardson.
Hey, Gemma, good to be here, mate.
I'm really excited to talk to you. Obviously, most of our viewers would know you from being the CEO of South Sydney, I imagine. But how are you? How's things going at the moment?
Yeah, really good, mate. My time had come at South Sydney, I felt, and we got some great people there, particularly Blake Solly. And so it was time to grab my IP and work with my son to set up a company called Rich Digital. And only we could open a startup at the beginning of COVID, but the last 18 months have been very kind to us, so it's been the right decision.
Yeah, so Rich Digital, what's the main service of that business?
Yeah, well, obviously my son had 7 years with Google in New York, and we service some quality businesses and manage their advertising in Google, Facebook, across all social media. That's one pillar of it. The second pillar is consultancy, and we consult to a whole different organisation, including South Central Coast Mariners, QRL, New South Wales Rugby League, and a few other people as well. So. And we've got some exciting projects coming up too, so that's a really exciting part for me. Then we manage 10% of our business is really on athletes, but we've sort of set up a thing called what we call 10 to 30. 10 years you play, then 30 years you've got to live afterwards. And from my experience, very, very few management companies do that. We don't go out to carnivals and pick people up. It's all by word of mouth, and it's across all platforms. So we manage. Adam Reynolds IP. We work with Toby Rudolph, different people, and because we find that those people are much easier to sell to the corporate world. Kennedy Cherrington, Ruben Cherrington, Ja'Kai Whitfield, so women's athlete. But then we've got Ali Day, who's the Australian Ironman champion, and we work with Justice Fooney and also a whole range of different athletes. So that's exciting. And then the final part was we established the Goanna Academy, which we never really. With Greg was one of those things which we've just won the Umbrella Award for, which is pretty exciting partnership. We set up that mental health academy for Greg, which is what his passion was when he finished football. And to be totally honest, he's grabbed it with both hands. He loves what he's doing. He's a different person compared to what I had to deal with him at South. And it's a fantastic story what Greg's done, and it's really 10 to 30. He had no idea when he got out what he was going to do, and everybody talked about coaching. He never wanted to do that. TV never wanted to do that. So it was a bit of a loose end, but he came up with this idea after coming through his own struggles, and it's been nothing but a success story for him.
Yeah, it's really interesting to look into the difference that yourself and him have made, and the rest of the staff at the Goanna Academy. Can you just talk to us a little bit more in detail about like the day-to-day operations and what the overarching goal of the Goanna Academy is, because it touches on some really important subjects that can be quite delicate to talk publicly about.
Yeah, well, we sort of Greg really got into it because he was told to go into it by his psychiatrist and did the Australian story, and from that became, Greg decided, okay, well, if I can make a difference to one life, and that's the important thing in this, if you make a difference to one life, you save one life. Very few people go through life saving one life, and I think Greg's saved hundreds so far. So what we really do is, and Greg wants to do it amongst the communities that need it most, and unfortunately, the Indigenous communities, particularly in the country, New South Wales and Queensland, have a really high suicide rate. And so we work closely with the schools in those areas, with the New South Wales Education Department, with other sponsors like ASIC, who sponsors us otherwise, and councils. We're doing one in the Newcastle area in the next few weeks. And what we're really trying to do is take the message across to young people about what they need to do, and families, what they need to do to try and help and manage their children's going through mental health. We sort of set it between 13 and 17, but unfortunately it's lowered to 11, which is quite amazing. And it's really, sometimes with Greg, to be fair, he's thrown himself into this 100%, and he doesn't just go into a community and come out. He lives in that community, leaves postcards for people to send to him and talk to him about. So he's always constantly working at it, but it wears you down. And there'll be days when Greg will just say, Richo, I can't do this today. I need a break. And you've got to be very conscious of that, because he obviously got his own struggles with bipolar, which he was fortunate to be diagnosed correctly. But bipolar is a disease that never goes away. You've just got to manage it. And there's good days and bad days, like there is for everything. And unfortunately, if you've got cancer, people can see it. If you've got bipolar, they can't see it and they don't think it's as important. It is. It's a terrible disease which can lead to you taking your life. So he's done a really good job. He loves what he's doing. He's passionate about it. He gets up every morning with outside of golf, he gets up every morning with a step at a king of his step. So I'm really pleased for Greg, because it's a long way from where he was.
Yeah.
When he finished.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, the South Sydney family have been really hurt recently with the
Cole's. Yeah, Greg was close to Kyle, not only in our premiership winning side, but obviously also the Indigenous All-Stars, where he unfortunately got the injury that really set him back. Cole's a highly intelligent person, a degree, was a teacher at Kinnabarabran High, had so much to give in life, and a very quiet person, reserved, and it's one of those things. The old saying of "Are you okay?" People say it, but you've got to live it too. And there's just the real thing. Messages that Greg gets across is you've just got to talk to your family. You've got to talk to your friends around, and he had lots of them. And everybody was surprised when it happened. But at the end of the day, he was a great guy, and it had a dramatic effect on Greg. And Greg's had another tragedy recently in his life as well. So it's a day-to-day thing. You've got to live with it. Every family has it, but very few families have the tools to be able to deal with it.
Yeah, you sort of get a little bit lost for words. I know, like one of the messages I speak about whenever this topic comes up, because I had my own mental health issues with depression and anxiety. I was so fortunate to be able to be in a strong, supportive household that recognised something wasn't right.
Yep.
Wife said to me, "It can't be fun living in your head. Go and get some help."
Yep.
I messaged the club doctor. Again, I was so fortunate to be. I wasn't at the Dragons in the playing role, but good friends with the doctor said, "Man, I need to come and see you." Within 36 hours, Dr. Stefan Eriksson was kind enough to fit me in, and man, within 36 hours, I was on the pathway to recovery through some medication. But I was so grateful to him, and it's kind of like his response sort of was really logical, and this is something that I now tell people. Like, he's like, "Mate, doctors, we want to help you. Like we want to see you into a better place. We want to make you better. We want to fix this." And for most mental health issues, they are treatable.
They are.
They're treatable, and things can get better. You don't know when a random event is gonna better your life, and we all have random events that can knock us for six as well. But
was this after you finished playing?
It was, yeah.
Yeah. See, that's a great thing you did, reaching out, mate, because very few people do that. They finish their career, and it's like, as you know, it's like the air's out of the balloon. Where are you? Particularly if you've done nothing to be able to prepare yourself, which a lot of players don't. The challenge you've got then is that's when the depression and anxiety get. What am I going to do next? How am I going to do this? And actually, the thing about it is there is lots of opportunities for you to be able to reach out and get help for it. And as you said, mate, a simple anxiety, pills and everything. I'm on them. I struggle with anxiety myself, and I've been on them for 10 years. Some say I should have double doses sometimes. But at the end of the day, I just think, though, it's a key that people don't really want. And that's my point about 10 to 30. It's not just 10 to 30 what you're going to do when you finish. It's 10 years you play, and then what are you actually thinking about doing with your life? And it's not just about a career. It's about your wife, your family, what you're doing, where you're going to live. I mean, you've chosen to live in Australia. I mean, most people would have thought you wouldn't have went back to England. My point about it is, though, they don't reach out enough, and there is a lot of opportunity. And one of the things we try to do with the Goanna Academy is steer them towards organisations that are already there, but they don't even know that they're there. And that's one of the things we find when we go to the country. Great organisations like the Black Dog Institute, Headspace, etc. They're there, but they can't get in the community. But see, Greg can open that up.
And they want to help.
Oh, they do.
They want to help.
But they don't get trusted in the community because when I say they're not trusted, when Greg comes along and says, you should be talking to them, well, if I come and talk to them. But if they're not there, they don't feel, particularly in some of the isolated country communities, they don't feel that they can actually do that. But with players... and if you're in an isolated country community, there's very few people you can actually reach out to away from your family. So we try and make sure that we put people in touch with those people as much as we can, because, again, you can't solve every problem. You can't solve, but it's the point I made before. You save one life.
Yeah, and you give some people the solutions.
Correct.
Give them the solutions.
And the families.
And, things to look out for.
Yeah, that's correct.
You know, signs like, changes in behaviour, appetite, mood.
Yep.
These are all key things to look out for, and the quicker you act, the easier the fix is going to be. And in terms of like the athlete, and it's funny when you finish playing or retire, and one day you're a footballer, the next day it's literally the next day you're not. You in that civilian life, but I personally would like to see the NRL, fantastic at pathways in. A lot of resources go into the rookie camp, developing these boys into young men, what's expected of them, etc., highly skilled to play in this competition, this brutal competition, which rewards you so much. And nobody wants any sympathy for the fact that they've become a professional athlete, but I think we owe it to the players to give them the better resources on the pathways out of the game, because I speak to numerous players after I've come forward with a number of issues, and they don't know where to turn to, that they are fundamentally lost. They don't know how to manage pain. They don't know how.
That's
like what
people don't realise that was a major thing with Greg. I mean, you played games probably every week of your life near the end with painkillers or of some form, and more importantly afterwards, and things because you couldn't go to sleep because all those things. When you finish that has a dramatic, because if you don't cut it back, that becomes a major part of your life, and that creates the depression and anxiety. And you're right, that coming down is huge, and that the management of that post, really is no management post. People say that, but there isn't any management post because the resources aren't there for it, because the resources really there to find who are the great athletes.
Yeah,
and then they go on and create it, and hopefully they make money out of it. But at the end of the day, the problem you've got is there's about 10% of great athletes. There's 90% of blokes who just do the job every week, and when they finish, they've got the same pain, the same anxiety, and less money.
And these are a number of issues which actually accelerate mental health problems. So if you're not managing pain properly, then you're not managing it's affecting your sleep.
Yeah.
Then it affects your depression, your anxiety,
Yep.
your outlook, your mindset,
Alcohol intake,
drug
intake,
your lack of exercise, which again, your relationship with exercise changes dramatically. You go from, some players see exercise as a necessary evil. It's like, I've done all that, I'm never going back there again. It's like, well, no, we need to manage our relationship with exercise. We're not going to flog you. You're never going to need to, push yourself to the very extremes like you did when you were playing football, but we can still have a healthy relationship with exercise because it actually benefits.
Oh, for sure.
like in a multitude of areas.
Yep.
The connection of going to the gym or run with somebody, like it's.
I think Greg talks a lot in his programs about routine. And so when you come out of this massive, strict routine and you drop out of it altogether, exercise doesn't have to be that. But it's the same. Greg talks also with kids about when you get up every morning, just make your bed. It's not that you're making your bed because your mum's going to give you a rap. It's because you're actually doing something that starts the day with a bit of discipline. Because if you don't have that discipline in your life, because you've had it all your life with other people forcing you to do it, coaches and physios and everything else, you've got to now drive your own discipline. And that's the routine and discipline is an important part of what you're doing.
Yeah, well, on the, just to the athlete mindset, it's, you're told where to be, what to wear. We can't even be trusted to bring our passports to the airport. I remember coming here and the first time we played, I tell this story all the time, first time we played the Warriors away, it's like, oh, bring your passports in on Monday. We get a text, it's like, or a group WhatsApp. It's like, what? We're not flying till Thursday. It's like, no, bring them on the Monday. Why? Because we can't give you that responsibility to know you're going on an international flight and not have your passport. It's like,
Yep.
And that's and they do it because the coach doesn't want the star player or a number of players to turn up on Thursday and be like, oh, forgot it.
And it's happened.
And it has happened. But did that person or player learn a valuable lesson? Absolutely.
Oh, but you're right though, because what happens then is no one's going to ring you up for your passport when you're going overseas next time, without football. So it's so it's one of those little disciplines. But I don't disagree with them. And that's, as I said, that's the whole thing I learned on 30 years of running rugby league clubs, was that the 10 years that they played was everything was taken care of them for. But I just saw so many disasters for the period after that, and that could have been preventable, and that need to be done. So, and their management, with all due respect, and I'm not blaming managers or otherwise, although I've seen a few ordinary ones in my time, but the reality is management, once they're no longer a cash cow, very few managers have a genuine interest in what they're doing. I've got to say, some that's not across the board. I think Chimes has been good with some of the people who've had since they finished, and to single out one, but mostly, mate, the cash cow's gone. But their life still go on, and they've been taken care of so long and catered to for so long that they struggle to deal with it. So the 30 years afterwards is important, mate.
It 100% is. Also, the idea of making your bed to start off with a little bit of discipline and routine, but you also end the day to a freshly made bed.
Correct.
Which
spot on.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank me.
Yeah. Mate, it's not only the Goanna Academy. You're currently part of the Queensland Firehawks expansion bid for the 18th team.
Yep.
Why the Firehawks?
It's my old club. I played there, coached there, and then I was chairman there in 1993 when the coach, John Lang, and I got a phone call from a crazy man from Cronulla called Peter Gow, who were in bankruptcy, in liquidation at the time, and rang me up and said, I want you to come down and take over the club. So he took over from Arthur Beetson and I took over from Brian Canavan. And that was my start in the NRL. I was only an unpaid chairman at East, and I had a job, obviously. And so then John Lang and I came. Was my start of my professional rugby league career at Cronulla. So John Lang went down by bus with his family because they couldn't afford to pay for an air flight. I lived in the back room of Peter Gow's house for 6 months because they couldn't put up accommodation for me to move the family down at the time. Really? So we had no money. And John Lang and I set up in our garages, we set up a boot camp. So in my garage, I had Richie Barnett, I had, who else did I have in my garage? Jeff Bell, and I don't think who else was it. But in Langy's had Knuckles Greenhill, Paul Green, Adam Marr. So they actually lived in our garages. So our wives took care of them for the first 12 months because they couldn't afford to put them into accommodation or otherwise. So that's how, and then we brought them all down to play that year, and they'd run last so the year before, and then we ended up making one away from the finals and won the reserve grade and won the under 20s comp. So that was that only, and that's the first premiership Cronulla had ever won at all in any grade in professional football. But it started from Lang and I coming down there as from out of nowhere because we were the cheapest option for the club. True story.
Wow. Well, there you go. Yeah. But just on that the Firehawks bid to become the 18th team.
Yeah, well, that's my club.
So there's an affiliation there.
Yep.
But why should the NRL take the Firehawks over PNG, Perth, North Sydney?
Well, first of all, we're a real rugby.
And a second New Zealand team.
Well, first of all, we're a real rugby league club. We've been doing it for 90 years. We've got pathways from under sixes through an enormous amount of clubs in that area, which is, so we're a real club with our own ground, no debt, 80 or 90 million dollars worth of assets, debt free, $26 million in the bank, an EBITDA of 7.8 million from the leagues club every year, and its total charter is to put it into rugby league. Secondly, we ran second to the Redcliffe side in the last bid, and I think our marketing plan was better, but because I know it's better because I think they've stolen most of it. But at the end of the day, it's not really about just it's about how many teams are in Queensland. It's about the statistics are there's 38% of all players participation rates come from Queensland of the whole of Australia. 38%. Of that 38%, have a guess how many play in the NRL? 16. How many Papua New Guinea players play in the NRL? 2. My point about it is it's all right to have these grandeur ideas and political ideas, etc., about going to Papua New Guinea, but you've been there. How in the world are they going to attract the players and the coaches to Papua New Guinea? Now, they talk about what in the short term I'm talking about. If they're going to have Papua New Guinea in, I don't disagree with that eventually, but they should have a staged program to bring them in so that they're able to develop players and pathways, because they haven't got pathways now. No matter what anybody says, I know they haven't got the pathways now. We have. So you fish where the fish are, and the number of players in that area from Logan through to Toowoomba to Ipswich to all through there is massive, and they're struggling, those clubs. And the area is struggling. Why are the AFL where are they based? They're based outside of Ipswich because that's the growth area of Queensland. So so they're fishing where the fish are, we're not. So my point about it is all that. Now, it's all right to have other people coming in and otherwise, but we, from a television and a point of view, there's no way you're not going to sell more Foxtel packages in southeast Queensland than you are in Papua New Guinea or Western Australia. I mean, the reality is that if you're talking about Channel 9, for example, they're not going to appear live on TV over there on Channel 9. They're going to appear on Gem like Melbourne do most of the time. People don't realise that. Like, Melbourne's a great club and done well, but if it's up against the AFL, they're going to play the AFL and put us on Gem. So what I'm trying to say is the overall view is that I believe strongly that the NRL should have a policy of a 20-team competition, and I think we should move to groups, etc. But that should be in a plan going forward. So there's 18, 19 and 20. Having Papua New Guinea and Pacifica as part of that plan, I get that, but there's a lot of preparation to do it. The next television cycle is from 27. So there's nobody shovel ready bar us in 26. No matter where you are, there's no one shovel ready. Now, if you wanted to make Papua New Guinea come in later or bring an opportunity in where you take 32 players into your squad and you don't get charged in the cap for those 2 from Papua New Guinea to develop players down, but the reality is only 2 current players that are from Papua New Guinea, that were born in Papua New Guinea. That's Olam and Xavier Coates. So I've done all the stats and everything on it. I just think that this is a club, my old club obviously, but 90 years, one of the great clubs in Queensland, no financial problems at all, will be able to come to the competition immediately, has pathways already involved. To me, it's a no-brainer. And the theory about players, there's not enough players to go, I just think it's wrong. I've always have.
For 18 or for 20?
For 18, I think 20 is a 10-year development plan, in my opinion. And so you work towards that with Pacifica and New Guinea. But to put it in straight away, I don't understand outside of that it might be an assistance to the government and their policies, and we might get a massive amount of money for it. But the reasoning should be beyond that. It should be about rugby league and what the development of rugby league is. And, I've been all over the world in rugby league developing. I was manager of the New Zealand side in the World Cup. I've done a lot of work on the New Zealand side. We've taken 6 years of games to Perth with South, 7 years of games to I'm an expansionist in my views, but I'm also a realist because I also lost a fortune in Gateshead when we started a club up with figures that were rubbery and were wrong. We can't do that because it sets the Gateshead back, Newcastle back a period of time, and it'll set back them if they're not successful too. We've got to have a bigger view of it than that.
Well, you've convinced me. One of the questions I was going to ask is there a danger of an oversaturation in the Queensland market? Obviously, the Dolphins come in.
I'll give you a statistic. This is a true statistic. Do you know the idea of when the NRL came up with the 17th team, they were really heavy on, I think this is going to cannibalise Brisbane. Brisbane made that point too. They were never supportive of it.
Why do you think that is?
Because they're owned by News Limited, and they had the whole control of Brisbane. They've had the greatest run of what they should have been premiers every year for the last 30 years, because they had the whole of Queensland under their control, and they've had the whole of southeast Queensland under their control forever. I mean, the Titans are down there, but they've struggled, as you know, Titans through many identities. The Broncos have been there the whole time, backed by News Limited, owned by News Limited. They're owned by News Limited. So the bottom line is that the expansion of the game, there was a very few number of players would move away from Brisbane if they could. They would accept unders. Gordy accepted unders. Lockyer accepted unders. They all did because they didn't want to move away from the families. And that happens at South Sydney. If a South Sydney junior like him, he'll accept unders because he wants to be there with his family. But that's why you've only got the percentage of players from Queensland playing in the NRL, because there's over 50% come from New South Wales. They've got the massive amount of numbers in. Here's a stat for you, though, on cannibalising. You're going to cannibalise. How many? So Redcliffe have got over 30,000 new members. That's 30,000 people who last year weren't a member of a rugby league club. Brisbane have got 9,000 more members. We've beaten Brisbane every year at South for I don't know how long, at 32,000. They have now hit the 40,000 mark in members, despite Redcliffe coming in. You know why that is? Competition. And excitement and news. Here's another stat for you.
They're playing well.
How many extra people have gone to games in Queensland? Extra people from last year have gone to games in Queensland. 275,000. And there's a game this weekend. So there's 275,000 people have paid for a ticket that didn't pay for a ticket last year. Tell me that's cannibalising. It's actually grown the business of Brisbane. It makes them smarter because business is all about competition, mate. Then they've got to compete with Redcliffe. So there's no and television ratings, they are through the roof. Through the roof. Channel 9 and Fox are absolutely ecstatic about what's going on with television ratings. So how is not having another team in Queensland with another derby, another team to... we were going to play every game of the season at Lang Park. We're going to be there every weekend. There's 9 weekends of this year that there was no games in Queensland, in Brisbane. No, 9. So if there's another team in Brisbane, you'll have every weekend. So my point about it is, though, the fallacies and furphies about numbers of players is just not correct. Why do car yards are all in the same block? Why aren't they away? For a reason, because they're backing themselves that they can get the walk past traffic to walk into them. So Toyota's alongside, Ford's alongside. That's the mentality behind it, because they realise to run their business effectively, they've got to be, and they need traffic. What we're creating in Queensland is traffic. And it's been a huge success this year. The numbers are phenomenal numbers and no cannibalisation at all. None. Now, from a player's point of view, there's more opportunities for players to become part of that top 30 in another club. There's another 30 full-time people that the RLPA should be looking at. So there's no downside at all. And people say, they're weaker or otherwise. The only reason Redcliffe had struggled at the end of the season was that because they only had a short space of time to get involved, they recruited. They recruited strongly where you're not going to get beat 60-0. What they did, they bought hard-headed forwards who are going to tackle, right? And these young backs coming through. Now they've started to get Farnsworth and bloody Flegler, and they've got depth now. You understand? So next year, they've only trailed off this year because they've had injuries and state of origin, and they've lost depth. They never had the depth to be able to do it. But next year, they'll have the depth. They'll get stronger and stronger and stronger. So there's every reason to think that if you really want to be competitive, you have competitors around you.
I'm just thinking as well, you touched on a point before about the AFL's strategic plan to come into that area of southeast Queensland. Will we regret not putting the Firehawks team in there if they're allowed to, you say fish where the fish are, if they get some...
Well, I'll tell you what the AFL have done out there. They have done. They are the masters of this. They've got their leagues club at Springwood, which is halfway between the Gold Coast and Brisbane, which is in that Logan area. We've got there's East Springwood. We've got a club there, East. And they've built the whole organisation at Springfield, which is in the west, which is the fastest growth in Australia of any region, because population-wise, it's a low socio-economic region. So there's massive rugby league players come through it, a lot of great Polynesian players from Southeast, and then right through Ipswich, Toowoomba, noted for it. The point I make about it, they built there for a reason, and they've put $60 million more into the Brisbane Lions than they pay any other AFL club. They put $130 million into the Gold Coast at 100. My point about it is we can't put $60 million into the West, but we can put a club or have an organisation out there. That's number one. Number two, the Broncos claim it as their area. We've got 2 development offices in Ipswich. I mean, AFL go to the biggest builders in Queensland is GJ Holmes. Now, they build over 60% of all schools in Queensland. And the AFL went to them and said, okay, what we'll do with you is where every school you build, and where do you think most schools are being built in that area? Every school you build, we'll provide you the goalposts for them and a subsidy to start off different things for the sporting areas of those schools. Every school you build. So every school that they build, that will have they'll have the Australian rules goalposts there. That's how smart they are. But you know what? They haven't. Like the biggest areas they want to expand to is there and south and Western Sydney. They can't get into it. You know why they can't get into Western Sydney? Because rugby league's got the hearts and minds. They've got Penrith, Bulldogs, West Tigers, Parramatta, all in there. Now, even though we can't spend the money we are still there, and the hearts and minds of those people. There is nobody in that area. And that's why they're not stupid. They didn't build at Redcliffe. They didn't build on the North Coast. They didn't build in the middle of Brisbane. They built out there. There's a reason. And millions they've spent out there. They've got a ground out there for their women to play at. They play all the home games out there. They train out there. They're all the facilities. There's a reason. He's made a point, Hamish. You know, we are the number one sport in Queensland. Well, they're not. But they will be if we don't do something about it. It's all right saying you fly over the top of it and see all the goalposts, see all the Aussie rules posts. So I can get it. But they haven't got the hearts and minds. They haven't got the barbecuers, the raffle sellers, the tough-minded people, you know, and I don't care how long you go on with, you know, we do a lot better with Indigenous players, we do a lot better with Polynesian players, and that area is full of magnificent players, white, Polynesian or otherwise. So it's an area we can't give up and we need to take control of. Fish where the fish are.
What year are you projecting you'd like to, or what year would you, in an ideal world,
in the words of Utopia? Do you watch Utopia?
Yes. I know what Utopia is.
Yeah, it's a great show, but we're shovel ready. So we're ready to do it now. We could do it tomorrow. If they wanted to put a team in next week, we could do it. If they want to put a team next year, we could do it.
You could do a club. Could you put a team?
Yeah, we could. Because, I mean, I've built teams all over the world.
Well, we're going to get into that.
Yeah, see, this myth about building a team.
But how long would you need to recruit? What about the recruitment?
Look, it'd be nice to have 2 years. Because Brisbane, Redcliffe only had one. Yeah. The ideal situation would be 2 years. So if they made an announcement next year in 14, you come in 26, and made in 25, 27. But 2 years is perfect for it, to set it up, to be able to recruit properly. We've already got pathways in place. But you know, it's not a difficult thing to set up get a football team together. Wayne's proven it this year on 1 year's notice. And there's a lot of players out there, mate, who are playing in second grade who, as you know, a lot of the players playing in second grade are as good as 5 or 6 of the blokes who are in the top 30. So if there's 16 clubs multiplied by 5, there's 80 players sitting out there at a level underneath. You see, when you put a team together, people get really excited about teams together because what they do is they go, right, you've got to get Greg Inglis. Like if you get Greg Inglis or you get Ponga, well, that's that's beautiful. I always thought that they're the cream on the cake. What you're getting is this group of blokes down below who want to rip and tear and get a chance. Young blokes coming through that 19 to 23. You fill that with about 7 or 8 of those guys and different. You've already mapped out what you want. Then you fill it with all these blokes who have to work every week to make a go out of it. And they'll become the best coaches in the long because they have to maximise everything. They do the tackles, they do the hit ups, they do the defensive line, the reads, everything else, and then you worry about the cream later on, the 5, because if you haven't got them, and that's what Redcliffe fell apart a bit this year. It's not their fault because they only had 12 months, but they haven't got those that coming next year. They will, but they're starting to get the cream. You know, they've got Flegler, he's a cream. Farnsworth is as good a centre as there is in the game. So they're getting the cream. You know, they bought a young kid in at 5'8" who will be good value. He will be. They bought the speed machine at fullback. So they're starting to get the cream. They've got the big unit coming through in the centre. He's not ready yet because he's not good in reads, but he's a class act. I'm trying to think of his name.
Friday.
Yeah, Tawara. So you know what I mean? Like he's not there, but he will be because another off season because he only had one. Who knows what a weapon he'll be? He'll be like Bradman Best. You know, Bradman Best take a while to work into it. So what I'm trying to say is when you build a team, you know, what you first got to get, Gemma, you know yourself, you got to have people are hungry. People want to win. People aren't going to roll over when somebody puts it on them. They aren't going to, you know, and there are people out there with those and looking for the opportunity and chances. Now, you've got to have better players. No one disputes that, but you'll get the better players over a period.
Well, I think as well, there's 2 points to this. Like if you build it, they will come in terms of, and it will raise everybody up.
Yep.
And also sometimes for the long term benefits of the game, you have to maybe go through some short term pain.
Correct.
Like we've seen it. I've seen it in a number of sporting competitions that change, and it is difficult the first year too. But you know, if you react on that, we'd still be. We'd never go full time. We'd
But I heard that, Jim. You see it now. Like, let's be brutally honest. You know, I always talk. I've reasonable success over many, many years taking clubs from the bottom to the top. So I've never taken over a club on the top. I've taken them over on the bottom. And the bottom line about it is that people get excited about it, but what they do, you got a platform. I call it the McDonald's theory of doing things. This is the way you set the club up. This is the way you do it from Eastern Brisbane through Cronulla, all the way through England, everywhere. It's the same way. And you have a path and a journey which everybody buys into, and you never go off that path. Now, you never. Because what you might do is get a little snake hump around where you might have to make a few changes. But once you start to do that, you're gone. That's the world of, we're rebuilding. I never take over a club to rebuild. I take over a club to say, what we've got here, we need to improve on it to make us successful. I always say at South, we're poor, then we were average, then we were fair, then we were good, and then we were premiers. Now, my point about that, it's a gradual climb, and if we hadn't stuck to the path of our recruitment and what we're doing and everything else, what you find now with the clubs is they're all looking for the big hit. You know, let's look at West Tigers, for example. Now, West Tigers have got an unbelievable recruitment area, an unbelievable mob of juniors coming through. They won the Harold Mass 16s a couple of years, they're more than competitive in ball. So they've got all things in place, like Penrith and Parramatta, to come through. But instead of actually working towards a path and a plan to get that through, they charge off and they chase players that they're never going to be a chance of picking up. They might say, well, if you don't try. But instead of looking at the next player down that will come, that will do the job, their recruitment policy is not about what I talked about before here, getting the middle right and then getting the specials. They never got this right. And they're not got the pathways through. No kid will leave a club if he thinks he's going to be the halfback in 3 years' time. He'll leave the club when it shuts off to him. So when you bring players in, you've always got to think about what opportunities you're blocking off for the kids coming through. And if you do that and you allow for that and you're planning, those kids will stay with you. And, mate, that's where you get your loyalty. First of all, they're the cheapest. I'll tell you why, because they're living with their family. You don't have to relocate them and pay them for it because they want to be there anyway. They're playing with their mates. You know yourself, when you grow up, all you want to do is play with your mates. So the second thing about the loyalist, because they're actually West Tigers people, so they want to be part of what's going on. And the third thing about them is that they actually come out of a really good system. They've got a good system coming through, so they're well trained when you get them. Unlike you might pick a bloke up from Cunnamulla or something, who's got to start from word go. But they don't do that. They want the big hit, and that's why they get beat every week. Because at the end of the day, they've got to build that up so that the players they're bringing in, which they're doing at the moment, become that layer underneath. The other ones will come. They're not going to come unless you pay them a fortune, or if they can see a pathway for them to be successful in the game.
It's really interesting that because one of the things that I wanted to speak about was when you arrive at South Sydney in 2004. I think it was. Before we get to there, obviously you're involved in the Firehawks potential 18th team. Has there been any current NRL clubs come knocking on your door? Because you've plenty of evidence that you can be successful and build a club. You mentioned the Tigers. There's a couple of others that spring to mind that I think could do with your expertise.
Look, I've spoken to a couple of clubs. I think, you see, you've got to make a real commitment to winning. Now, people think, oh, yes, we're winners, we're going to win it. You have got to make a real commitment to winning. One of my successes, I make a real commitment to winning. I'm not there I'm there to win. Now, you can't always win, but most of the clubs that I'm involved with build up to top 6, top 8, top 4, and then stay there. They don't go down because you build up a system underneath that keeps them there. But to do that, you've got to make some really unpopular decisions about players, sometimes coaching staff. And what you've got to be able to do is have the tools and the control to be able to do it. Because if you haven't got that, you can't do it. Now, I will never be involved with any organisation and never have been where I never had those powers and tools. Now, most of these clubs you go to, they don't want to give you the power and tools. They want you to come in there to say, oh, I've got this guy in and all the rest. But they actually think they know how to run a football club, and they don't. They have no idea.
Who's they?
Oh, a lot of the time the boards and the management, because they have no idea about how to run a football club. One of the beauties that I've got is that I can do the commercial side because obviously I've got an accounting background, a finance background, but also obviously I've got the football side too. So a lot of blokes have either got one or the other. I've got both. So when I come in, I know both. What do I prefer to do? Football every time. That's why when I went back to South, I went back as GM football, which is what they do with the NFL and soccer in England, the manager. So at the end of the day, so those organisations, it's funny when people get involved with sport or rugby league. I've said it so many times throughout the world. They're really good in their own businesses, their panel beating businesses or their IT businesses, and they think they know because they're fans and drink with their mates on Friday night. They think they know how to run a football club. They have no idea because there's two things about it. First of all, they take the head off and put a pumpkin on when they get involved with sport. They don't even carry any of the principles of running their business through there. That's the first thing they do. Because the second thing is they don't understand the emotion. They don't understand that every Sunday you're under pressure for a result every Sunday. And so what you've got to be able to do is handle that pressure, know that pressure and understand. And that's my point before. And stick. Don't run off behind people.
So don't act on emotion.
No, you don't know the number of board members I've had to train over the years how to come in the dressing room because they all want to come in the dressing room when you win. They're like, oh, let's sing the same song together. When you lose, 9 times, and if they are there, you know what they're doing? They're over in the corner whispering to each other. And if you as a player, first you think is, they're whispering that I didn't take enough hit-ups today. They're whispering that I missed that tackle on the try line. Because that's what players do, mate. You've just lost the game. You're not there positive. You're thinking, what the fuck? And so I train them and say, don't come in the dressing room.
Ever?
No, they can come in the dressing room, but these are the principles. You're there to support the team. And if you come in after a loss, the first thing you do is you go around and shake everybody's hand. We'll get there next week. And you don't talk in a corner. Because the dressing room is sacrosanct.
I've seen that happen as well.
Oh, it's sacrosanct, mate. And if they want to really be part of the team, they've got to accept that. But some people don't want to accept. And some chairmen get so emotional, or people. I've had some great chairmen. Nick Pappas is one of them, by the way. But over the years, come down the dressing room and carry on, and I just say to them, you know what? You don't like it, fuck off. Because at the end of the day, if you want to say, you just say, but I haven't been sacked for a reason, not because I've never been a great friends of the board or any of that bullshit. I go and present my board things, and I would say 8 times out of 10, my recommendations have been accepted by a board, 2 times. But I don't walk out saying, oh, the board made me do it. Once a team makes a decision, that's my decision because I'm the CEO. But they've got to do the same to me because they didn't agree with something on it. They've got to be supportive of it, and then it doesn't get out. And if you want to do that, I'll be the first one to front them and say, and mate, people don't like that. People want to be, when you're chairman walking around with your coat on and your hat and your things and walking around, they don't want anybody who's going to stand them on their ear. You can't do that. You know what? But it's not about standing on the ear. It's about saying it's just not acceptable. Because if you want a winning team, you've got to be part of the team. I always say when you win a premiership, the lady or the girl or the bloke on reception and the head coach, they all feel the same way. We've won this. We've done this. We've won this. Because if you don't have that, you can't win. Because unless everybody's going in the axe head, you cannot win. But, mate, I'll tell you, the clubs that aren't successful, the board thinks they know. They think they can appoint football managers. They think they can walk over the top of the coach. And they'll never win anything because the players aren't stupid. See, the funny part of the world of rugby league is if you haven't got the players, you can't win. And if they're not on side and they're thinking that you blokes are all a mob of dickheads, you can't win. It's just as simple as that. But these blokes actually think that because they're millionaire businessmen or they're this or that, you can win. It's just a fallacy. So you ask me the question, you've got to have controls. It doesn't mean you want to dominate. You still got to be answerable to the board. You still got to, but at the end of the day, they can't interfere and create football committees with blokes who've got no idea, or selection committees with no idea. Or I remember at Eastern Brisbane, we had this. When I was president at Eastern Brisbane, I changed so many things when I was there, which didn't make me very popular at the time, by the way, probably why I've got life membership. But one of the things was they used to have this thing written in the Constitution. You had to have 3 selectors to pick the first group, pick the side. So they have 3, so the coach and 2 other selectors. So you could easily get beaten by the 2 other selectors, which happened quite often. So when I got in, I made myself one of the selectors. And I got in with the other selector when John Lang at the first meeting said, I'll tell you something now, mate, I won't give his name. He's a good bloke. He's still there, by the way. I said, well, I'll tell you now, mate, whatever you come up with a team on the weekend, if it differs from the coach, I'm voting against it. Oh, what if you agree? Couldn't care less. I'm voting against it. Because if you can't give the coach the team he wants, why have him as a coach? So that was the way. There's always a way around things in constitutions. People say, I'm not sure that works out in the Constitution. There's always a way around it if you want to. But that's my thoughts on that, mate.
I think it was reported that the Dragons came for your services. Was there a conversation there, and fundamentally did it not happen because of the control of the board?
Oh, mate, I think I'm in a pretty good... I had the answer is I did have a conversation with the chair, and he's a good bloke. But I think it was more about, I had 30. I used to say I've had 30 years with 50 different kids to take care of as the father for the last 30 years. It's nice not to be the father anymore, and I know I've had some great friendships over the years, but that the pressure of if you really want to win, you've got to have things in place that make you want to do it. And I'm really happy with what I'm doing, and more importantly, my partner. It's not a partner I can really do the wrong thing by. It's my son. So the answer is. The answer is I'm not really interested in going into that role. I'll be happy to consult and help them set things up, and also, mate, they've got people there in the organisation now who deserve the respect of that. And I'm a great believer that the big thing you've got to do is create a succession plan, whether it be in coaching or players or more importantly amongst your staff about what the future is. That's how you get a club that stays together. Yeah,
being highly aligned is really important.
It is.
I think, like you say, if the receptionist and the head coach, they feel like they belong to something bigger than themselves.
Yep.
And you have the whole, not just people that work in the club, but the community, the fans, the members, when they're all behind and they're all as ecstatic as you are, and living it and breathing it, and all as devastated as you are after riding every single wave up and down.
Well, no fan group has ever risen a bigger raise in South Sydney. Have thrown over the competition, bottom of the ladder, wooden spoons, everything else. But I've got to say, in all my time there, the people that I got on best with were the fans. Now you got your what's her name, Warriors living in their parents' garage until they're 50 years old, and but most of the fans, they know, and the reason what they know is because we tell them. So we work on the basis at South is that we tell them everything. So if the Telegraph print it or somebody else prints it, we tell them everything. All right. So, and they don't believe it until we tell them. We've got 32,000 members. We were the biggest membership in the game until the Broncos overtook us. But those members are very loyal, and our fans are very loyal. Now they won't like things that have happened, but at the end of the day, you've got to ignore all that to think that. See, a lot of people give all these people credit, but they're like I bite my nail. They're about that percentage of the real people that follow your club. They're nothing. But you give them credence because most people that are really genuine, they're not writing bullshit on posts and all the rest. Who's got the time if you're a labourer doing brickies and everything else? You haven't got time to write messages on posts and everything else. And they trust that you're going to disseminate to them the information. And they're not stupid. They're not stupid. They know when we're not playing well, or Latrell's not playing well, or Sam wasn't playing. They know all that rubbish. They're not dumb. They're the smartest people in the world. They follow it more than we do. But what you can't do is have them affect their Friday night beers with their mates, affect what you're doing for the next week. Because at the end of the day, they've got to say, everybody's got a right to say, as long as the thing about they're saying is about their performance, not about things that aren't true.
What have you made of before we get into you building that football club, what have you made of the recent events at South Sydney?
South Sydney is an incredibly well-run club with a very, I'm just saying, a really well-run board and a great administration. Sam is going to be always one of the greatest players that ever played for the club. It sounds like I'm building up to an excuse. I'm not. But at the end of the day, in my opinion, it's very clear, as I made before. At the end of the day, there is only one leader of men in the club, and that's the head coach. So the head coach has got to be absolutely confident about what's going on and where it's going. And you can't have any, in my opinion, any thoughts outside of that. You can have thoughts, you can bring it up and raise it with them and all the rest of it. But at the end of the day, the fact that the information got out about the situation created another challenge. I think, I've spoken to Blake and that. I'm sure they may have been able to handle it better, but they handle things mostly pretty well. It was an unfortunate situation which could have been handled better on both sides. And I'm being blunt about it. I may have handled some things differently or otherwise, but I think they did as good as they could. Sam's a very strong character, as you know, and that's why we like him. But at the end of the day, I think that, it's just one of those situations that happens. I had many happen in my time. There was with Sam or otherwise. Sam didn't talk to me for 12 months. But that's
not a bad thing.
Well, it wasn't. Well, Russell thought that too. But at the end of the day, it was a difficult situation. The one thing I will say about it all, though, like it happens, Jamie, as you know, the story comes out, they write the story, fair enough, you got that. They write the story, maybe Latrell hasn't been playing well or otherwise, that's a matter of opinion, you throw that in, but that's fair enough too. Coach would be saying that to Latrell if that was the case. All those things are there, but then what happens is, in this world of clickbait, they want to elongate the story as long as possible. You've got big personalities, you've got big people. Sam Burgess is a big story, as you well know, and it's not necessarily from Sam at all, but clickbait, and they want to, so they ring up people who are just so irrelevant. Why? What relevance is ringing this? And they're ringing people when they shouldn't. They've tried to ring Greg Inglis. Greg doesn't want to, and he's going through this challenge with these suicides, and they're ringing him in the middle of it to ask him about his opinion on Sam. Where do they really think that they are as people doing that? My point about it is that all that's there, and that's clickbait, and unfortunately you can't have fish and chip paper nowadays because you don't have any paper. But it's that limited amount of people. What I do object to is that in my opinion, South Sydney's greatest thing in their favour is a wonderful Indigenous club they have been forever. The great players, we gave Indigenous players starts and support before any other club did and still did. Our club is it's not based around Latrell Mitchell or Cody Walker, it's based around Greg Inglis, Reece Wesser, Nathan Merritt. We go back eons, Eric Sims. So we are proud that our mantra is about Indigenous. We are proud of it. And I think we all should be. South Cares has done an amazing job with employment. So to come out and say that Latrell sets up a platform for Indigenous, his own Indigenous, it's just garbage on everything. And it's a disgraceful thing to say about a guy who's a great family man, a good person. He knows his foibles if he's playing well or not. There's no downside to him. He's not out there on the piss caught in fights and everything. Never ever that with Latrell. To put him in that category is a disgrace. And the people who said it should have a long look at themselves. And they're not South supporters, because if they were, they would understand that South has always been an Indigenous club with Indigenous platforms, and I'm proud of it. Yeah,
well, you very well said. Very well said. So let's take you back to when you rock up to this football club. You've spoken about the process of building, about knowing where you want to go, staying online, the type of players that you want to bring in. We've got to win. You can't guarantee that because there's 15 other clubs that are all have the same level of ambition. South Sydney, a very different story as well. So first off, in comes a Hollywood A-lister owner.
Well, he didn't come in first up.
No. So when did he come in?
Whenever I go to a club, first of all, Nick Pappas conned me. He conned me. He conned me. He told me
that was a good start.
Well, they told me they were in a better financial situation than we're. And what I do, because obviously my commercial background, first thing I do whenever I go, no matter what club it is, no matter how financial, I pull apart the balance sheet. see where they're strong, where they're going well, where they're not. When I pulled apart South's balance sheet in the first week, they were $1 million worse off than we were. We had people ringing us up 120 days overdue, not being paid. And to be fair,
not players,
suppliers.
Yeah.
The players. Well, players had been played, but some of that was from time to time was a bit difficult anyway. But the reality was that Nick never really had control of the board. So even though he was chairman, it was 4-3. George's people were on the board, and it was 4-3 against the three from Nick. So even though Nick was chairman, he never really had control of the board. So I come in and pull it apart, and I go to the first board meeting. I said, we're insolvent. This is, you guys, are you serious about what we're doing? Because if we don't do something about this, and then it was all, I heard it a million times in my life. A gate said everywhere else, the money will come from here. Yes, we'll get that over there. Well, no more. I've been caught before doing that. Where, how are we going to turn this around? And so, and to be fair, they all recognised it, but they didn't have the solutions. And Nick was working hard, and we even had a situation where we had the sponsor, which was Channel 7. What's the owner of Channel 7? Oh, God. Anyway, they'd have virtually sponsored us to stick it up Channel 9 for throwing us out, Packer for throwing us out. So they gave us $1 million, which in that days was a big sponsorship deal. But they'd had enough. Like, we never looked like getting anywhere. They were going to pull the sponsorship for the following year. So Andrew Denton and I and Nick Pappas had to go and see Kerry Stokes. Had to go and see, and he sits there at the meeting, and I'm sitting there, and I'm this Neville nobody from Brisbane, from Penrith, and he sits there and he goes, why would I want to? I could buy a Picasso for the amount of money I've got to put in the South. I don't even know why, and they're all going, oh yes, I know this, and I said, well, and he looked at me and I said, I'll tell you why, because if you don't, we're up shit creek without a paddle. It's as simple as that. You don't give us the money for next year. We got no time to be able to organise ourselves. We're up shit creek without a paddle. He gave us $1 million, and so that was great because it wanted to give him life membership. He never turned up for the life membership and all this. But it was great because it gave us some breathing space to be able to reorganise. We had 7 full-time staff in the office. 7.
That's it.
We had in the office of the old building. We had rats. We had it was a nightmare with the whole setup. And so I brought my wife in to be my EA. She worked for the first 18 months for nothing as my EA because I had to have somebody in there. And when we started from there, and then we kept presenting to them, we've got to come up with a solution, and the only solution is to get in outside income. And Nick was good at trying to get people or otherwise, and then and of course I had never met Russell or otherwise, and Nick said, we'll go up to see Russell at it was a sevens comp up at what's it was. So this is 1995, 96, yeah.
Just quickly, pardon for the
I'm sorry,
the ignorance. So Souths was a members-based owned club.
Yep, correct.
Right?
Exactly right.
Not too dissimilar to a lot of other clubs here in Australia.
Correct.
Without private ownership. So I think the Warriors would be an example of a team that's privately owned. Brisbane privately owned.
Yep. They were probably the only two at the time.
Right. So Souths are in this predicament of like, we need to go fully private ownership, or
well, we needed an injection of capital, so I didn't care how it came. But the only way I saw it was by selling shares in the club. So and same with Nick. Nick was all over this from the beginning, and Nick Azisagos and Nick Pappas, they were geniuses and all this. And so we had to. But we were desperate, when we had meetings with Russell, and Russell didn't seem that excited to do it. Or first time I met him was he was on the. Have you ever been to his Aurora Sevens? He organises this platform in the middle where he sits up there, sort of like the gladiator looking over the field. And so you're talking, Russell, I think you're talking like this. But and he, and then to be honest, so then it got down to, he came in with an offer, which is great, and it saved the club. But again, we had to get through the board, because we had to get through the board, because the board had to agree to the to it before it could go to the members. And then if the board agreed, then the members had to vote 75% of the members for it. So you had to get 70. You didn't get 50. You had to get 75%. Wow. So there's a lot of hurdles.
So there's a big with a campaign process almost.
Well, first of all, you get through the board, and so we sat at the board meeting, and of course they knew we were in, like really. And I said to them, you guys are your fiduciary responsibilities. you're voting for a very serious situation here, because they had all these thoughts. And long story short, on the night, and it was quite amazing because I thought it'd be 4-3 and get beat, but on the night it was 4, 2 abstained, and 1 voted against. So I got through. And then it went to the vote, which then became a campaign, bigger than 10 Bears, and we won by 32 votes, but really it's 16. If 16 people had voted the other way, we would have got beat, and I wouldn't have had a job. So it was a big day. I remember Russell saying to me, when I come down to a press conference, I said, no, mate, I'm going home to bed. I've had enough. So, and then that started the process from there, and there's a million stories in that. But the bottom line was, Nick Pappas and Russell and Nick Azistagos, they fought the hard fight, and unfortunately or unfortunately, I was at the exit with them.
So,
and we're going to win football games at the same time, by the way.
So, working for a Hollywood A-lister, technically your boss?
Oh no, it's a funny thing with Russell. Is he the boss? Russell's never been in the office my whole time. He never went to the office once. He used to ring me up and say, look, I'm going to the game, training today, you want to sit up in the grandstand and watch it from time to time, but he never really got that involved. And he changed over the years in the way he treated the ownership dramatically. So he maybe thought things would be a lot easier than they were, and then he didn't, and he thought that things should be done this way, and I was going to leave, and then
is this about the?
Well, I was going to set up what I'm doing now, 15 years ago, 14 years ago, but no, just this thing I talked about before about, well, you think it needs to be done that way, and then well, that's great, you do it that way, but it's not my go. I can't do that. So I was going to leave, and there's a long story around that too. But the bottom line was, Russell has only ever had the interests of the club at heart from a word go. He's changed the way he manages himself with the club overall. He's not on the board. He has two representatives on the board. Now he's sold out shares to Atlassian and Packer, so they have a representative on the board. He has the board. The thing about the board is it's a 7-person board, but he's got 4 of the votes on the board, or the Atlassian and Packer and him got 4. They keep saying the juniors got 1 as the 5, but it's not. Russell gives them the juniors. He wanted them on the board, so he gives it to them, and they're always there. That's sort of bloke Russell is. He understands the importance of the juniors, and the 2 other members are voted in by the members, and it's Nick Hazistokos and Nick Pappas.
Yeah. Does he have any quirks, Russell? Because
he's got a lot of quirks.
He's big on the training kit, isn't he? He wants to see.
No, you know what he's big on, mate? And he's taught me so much about it. I used to think with Russell, I've come a long way with Russell too. He might have come a long way with me, but I've come a long way with him as well. Because he taught me all about IP, and about the importance of IP and the importance of doing things exact and correct. And so he started that off with merchandise, where he does a storybook every year of what the merchandise should look like. He changed our merchandise. We're the number 1 seller in merchandise in the game because of Russell Crowe. I always say he made us cool again. You know what I mean? He really did. He turned the rabbit round. He turned the rabbit round because we don't run that way. We run this way. Did you ever see the first, and it's still on YouTube, the greatest cartoon advertisement about changing the image of a club of all time? Have you ever seen it? The rabbit on the field? You got this cute little bunny. It's on YouTube, so everybody out there. It's got a cute little bunny sitting in the field. Because Russell was saying, we're a different sort of rabbit now. We are a different sort of. That was his IP, and. So there's a cute little bunny sitting with the goalpost at either end, like cute little bunnies, and over the top flies a seahawk, and then grabs the seahawk, bites its head off, and blood comes out everywhere. And then a tiger comes past. He grabs a tiger, cuts it out, bites his neck, blood comes out everywhere. What he was trying to say is, we're a different sort of, because we're a cute little bunny and everybody was on there. Yeah. And honestly, mate, it just changed the whole way we did things. And our merchandise went with it. And Russell has always really, we had Armani suits and everything else. Everybody thought it was a wing. So did I at the time, but it wasn't. What it was branding the club as a different sort of rabbit, and it attracted sponsors that wouldn't normally be involved. Now, Russell didn't bring a lot of sponsors to the club that way. What he did, though, was they wanted to come because of Russell in a lot of ways. But, I remember one of the first sponsors, he changed their whole colour scheme because it didn't fit in with the jersey from their logo. He's that meticulous and that thorough. And at a time it used to drive me crazy, and it used to drive the staff crazy. But as it's turned out, it's been the greatest. It's created this whole vision of South as a club of excellence. So he's outstanding in that way, and then marketing and protection of IP. So he used to have such clashes with the NRL. He's finally given up on that, but
to get.
They restrict because
there's a restriction, right? Is it 25 items?
Yes, it is. Yeah, but he's changed that too now. So we're over 50% of our is from our outside sources, which are approved by the NRL. But Russell changed all that.
It's so interesting that I actually did a little bit of work with Classic, and they would say I didn't realise the limitations on what you can and can't produce.
Well, Classic's our one, but it annoys them too because they're only getting 50% of the income because we can utilise other manufacturers to do things, hats and all sorts of different things. But at the end of the day, he's a great brand to deal with. And he loved Classic. See, this is him with brand. He's always loved the Classic brand. You know why? Because it's got the map of Australia on it and the thing. He thought that's an iconic symbol that needs to be with South. He used to come up with all these countries that had red and green, like Morocco and Algeria, or it might be Algeria.
Algeria,
but that's how meticulous he is. He's unbelievable. He's an avid reader. Russell would read book after book after book. He's got such a retentive, and he never forgets anything. And if he says something to you and you disagree with it and you go ahead with it, it's still there. He'll make a comeback at some stage down the track.
Did you have any of those moments yourself with him?
Oh yeah, we did early on. We had our few little clashes. I think it was about 6 months that we didn't talk for a while. But at the end of the day, I used to always say to Russell, and you're cool and I'm not, mate. You're really he is. He's really cool. I'm not cool, and I don't need to go to red carpets and parties afterwards. And I would So at the end of the day, I'll just run the footy club and do that, mate. And you're the man, and I don't have any because mate. And to be fair to him, mate, he takes a back seat and everything. He never comes out in the press unless it's praise. He never comes out otherwise. If he goes to games, he goes to his own little area and in games. If he goes to a funeral of somebody who's really important to him, it's very occasional. He'll come late and sit because he doesn't want to be the centre of attention. He's a good man, really good man, good family man too.
Yeah. You're putting the pieces of the jigsaw together. One of the words you used earlier was that cream. 2 of those at South Sydney.
Yep.
A 20-year-old, 21-year-old from the north of England.
Yep. Oh, it's a classic story. Russell likes to claim Sam, and he can because I don't mind. But I was on to him about Sam for months. He was over in England filming. And I'd had, because I followed English rugby league really closely, and his manager was a good mate of mine at the time, Chris Casely, and I was watching him, and he was just doing things that an 18 or 19-year-old couldn't do, like physically taking on men and giving it to them. There was just such an improvement, and I always saw him as not a middle but an edge back row because he had that great feet and unload. But I said to Russell, mate, we've got to get this kid. There'll be a transfer fee, but we've got to get him. Oh, no, I'm paying transfer. So it was a Friday night and Bradford were playing. And I said, mate, for fuck's sake, get a beer out and watch this kid on TV tonight. He rang me up and said, we got to get him. So he flew his mum and down and got it, and Russell then took him over and took care. And that's where the relationship really started. But it was the beginning of something great for the club because I didn't even know he had brothers, let alone twins. So all of a sudden I've discovered, Chris says, he's got 2 twin brothers of 17. No. So then I had a look at them and I went, how good's this? And so we got George and then what's her name stayed with, and then we got Tom, and they were a catalyst for our grand. In my opinion, Sam got the Churchill medal in the grand final, but I think George was the best player in that game. I think he turned the game when he went through and scored that try.
Yeah, he did.
He did, and he and Sam got it for all the right reasons. Yeah. But I think, in my opinion, George Burgess was the best player.
But if you were to look at that game just itself over the 80 minutes, I agree with you. But obviously, the subplots and
he wouldn't have even played after you got in the way of your head. He wouldn't have even got off. He would have been taken off straight away. And if he hadn't hidden in the toilet at half time, we would never have been able to find out what we were getting. The doctors trying to find him at half time, they couldn't find him.
He's an incredibly tough human being.
He is. So single-minded too.
So really, for you, your recruitment of Sam just came from you watching the English leagues.
Correct.
That's all it was. There was no tip off. Because I know Steve Menzies was at Bradford at the time, and he was ringing Desi Hasler to say, "Mate, you've got to get this kid. You've got to get this kid." I didn't
even know. I still don't know Stu.
But you were just like an observer of the Super League.
Well, he had the things there's several things when you're recruiting people. You know, people can go along and do all these things and this and that. And first of all, you go along to recruit somebody you need. It's all right going along to recruit. Oh, he's the best. We've got to recruit. If you've got a halfback that's going to be Adam Reynolds, going to be there for 7 years, why are you recruiting a halfback and paying money for him? So we were after that tough forward that needed to do a job. And, you know, you're searching around, you're getting older blokes like your compatriot Peacock. We had a look at him. But I watched what this kid could do. And there's two things you can't teach a footballer. And this is the two. You go through all the other bullshit. And they got great feet at the line. There's two things. If they haven't got these two things, or at least one of them, if you haven't got toughness, that's why I never made it. I was nowhere near tough enough. And the second thing is speed. I had no speed either. He had toughness and speed, no fear. He had to become a great player. So that was, and so when I saw him, I thought, him added to GI and what we had going anyway with Johnny Sutton, and I said, this is what we need, this forward leader who's going to go nuts, you know, and he was a nutter. And he just came in the grade like he was always meant to be there, you know.
It's funny you say that. Sometimes you do just need someone to.
Well, you do, mate. No, what you say. People go on with all this. I've been in this for a long time, mate. They go on, forwards win grand finals, mate. Forwards win fucking premierships. Forwards win state of origin. Because you can have all the best halfbacks in the world, but if the forwards aren't going forward with the ball and dominating the middle of the ruck, you've got no space to do anything else. You know, the challenge we've got with Cody at the moment and what we're doing, everybody's saying this, Cody, and that, our forwards haven't been dominant. We've had a lot of forwards out middles, by the way, at South. But, you know, we haven't been dominating the middle of the ruck. We've been dominated. So it don't matter how good you are with the ball, you haven't got the space, you can't do it. So the first thing you need to do is get a forward pack. And the other thing is when you're recruiting, you've got to get depth and, more importantly, quality in 1, 7, 9, 6. So who did we have? We had GI, probably the best fullback in the world. We had John Sutton, you know, a magnificent player, Adam Reynolds, and Bully, Isaac Luke. And fortunately, with depth, we had another bloke under him brought in called Api Coruscant, who ended up playing in the grand final when Bully was ruled out. So they're the sort of things when you're recruiting, you've got to look at, and they were all cheapies. Coruscant was, you know, we got him from North Sydney playing for us for nothing, you know. Well, Greg wasn't cheap, but he came to us because we were Indigenous and what we were doing. Sutter was a junior and was always, you know, good for, so was Adam Reynolds. That's the other part of recruiting. The first thing you do is looking within yourself. Make sure what you've got, you might already have it there, and any junior you've got, you need to keep on to. If it's 50-50 with a player, you keep the junior.
Yeah.
Always.
I
because
agree.
they're the most loyal.
And they care.
Yeah,
they care.
So we had 8 juniors in that grand final. We had 8 juniors in the Penrith grand final too. We had 8 juniors in Hull when they made the Challenge Cup.
That's an interesting message there, isn't it?
It is.
I don't think it's a coincidence.
No, it isn't. It's not a coincidence and it's consistency. See, the statistics tell you, and you read all the books, the statistics tell you that the longer you keep a team together, the better they get. Changing things around all the way. So if you're able to keep those unions who all play together anyway, coming through at the one time, and then add to it with players that fit in with what they are, the needs that you got. We never had a middle coming through at the time like Sam Burgess. You know what I mean? We had halfbacks, we had 5'8", we had centres, we never had a middle. We never had a fullback. So we had to get Greg Inglis. You know, so those are the sort of things you just, and they were the difference in turning the club around.
Did you have any rules and regulations on payment structure to players? So
yeah, we did.
What was that?
Yeah, well, I have tiers. Yeah, I've got a system which we've worked out over the years, and where I evaluate players. It's a bit like, you know, bookmakers have your bookmaking thing, but the real good punters, that they work out what the price is for a player. And I've done that for many, many years, where I've got an evaluation system for a player, what he's like, and then I evaluate them once they're in the camp. So, for example, if somebody, you know, I evaluated Jai Arrow when I bought him as a 700 grand player. That's how good I thought he was going to be, because he had a motor, tough, quick at the line, feet, could play back row, perfect to replace Sam. Okay, because Sam had to retire. Now, I paid $650 for him. That was too much. How could you do? Then he went on to play Origin. $650 was a nick. So what I'm saying is, you evaluate what the value of the player is there. What is Latrell Mitchell worth to the club? Now, I'm not sure what he's on because I'm doing it. Latrell Mitchell is worth $1 million in the marketplace. What is he worth to the club? $850. So once you go, I've got a valuation on Cody Walker, which Cody never used to agree with me on, but we had many a clash over the years. But that's my evaluation. It doesn't mean, and then you add in things that the value to the team or others. But if you start going saying, well, we've got to pay, like I would never ever in my life pay $1.2 million for Payne Haas. Not because I don't think he's a leading middle forward in the row. I'm not because but Payne Haas, and I agree with Gordy on this, Payne Haas is not a difference maker. He's a worker in the middle of the field, who's great yardage, all those things. And I made the point before, you've got to have forwards. But how much money do you pay for a forward? Or do you get a forward at 800 and 650 who's going to do the same job? You know what I mean? And give you depth in what you're doing. Because once you put 1.2 out there, everybody knows about it. So then you've got what's Corrigan worth? And they look, they see. So if you can create a situation in the club where you value the player and you always upgrade them, not because of November, but a year ahead. That's what they've done, which is a great job with Cam Murray. That's what you've got to do. You've got to, and then you've got to have a workout in 3 years' time. What's the team going to look like, and does this guy fit in the team in 3 years' time? So why am I paying this money now? It's a bigger picture than just that. You know.
Would you go as far to look at it as like a pie and say like, okay, well, I can have 3 players, taking up 25%, 3 players taking 25 to 30% of the cap, because do you know about is it Price's law that is it the square root of the number of people come up with 50% of the output?
Correct.
Did you follow that
model? I do, because
so
my thing's not about that, mate. My thing's more about this, is that if you've created an environment where people want to be at, they're going to take less. They are. They're going to take less. There's no way they're not going to take less. But if you don't have the environment, you've got to pay more. But once you start paying more, you're never going to get, that's what West Tigers are, you're never going to get to success.
So you were more of a focus on let's create an environment rather than...
No, first, but then, then what... I always say about this, for every plan A, you have to have a plan B. You can't just put all your eggs and go. You've got to say, if he leaves, if Payne Haas leaves, and I think he's a great player, so I'm not saying that, but what have I got coming through that's going to create to Payne Haas? So you upgrade them, keep them in what it is. If you're going to let Payne Haas go, so you've got a plan B. You've always got to have a plan B. You never let a manager, it's not used as a player, get you by the balls. You've got to make sure you've got control of the situation, and you have the controls because they want to be there. You treat them fairly, and you have a genuinely realistic price of what they're worth. They might be $1.2 million to go to the West Tigers, but to stay at Brisbane Broncos, you're worth X. That's what I think of things. And if they want to go and they have to go and it comes up and you lose a player, well, you lose a player.
We've got our plan B.
That's right. This guy's coming through, this young... And you know what? The young guys know. They're sitting there going, shit, if he goes, fuck, I've got a chance. You know what I mean? I'll extend now because then you reward them by giving them the opportunity. The classic example is South at the moment with Tallis Duncan, which Sam identified as well. He's going to be a really great kid, but they've done a great job of bringing him through and giving him a taste. Now he's not only got a taste, but they've also got his contract done. So when I never played a player in first grade if the contract wasn't longer term. I never played a player in first grade with if I would have. That's wrong to say it that way, but my attitude was I used to look for blokes who are coming through and think, yeah, they're getting close to first grade here. Let's get in now and get it upgraded and extend him, because I don't want him playing first grade, playing really well, and then he gives us the arse.
They're on the
All
market.
you're doing is putting him on show for everybody else, So, well, it's cruel, but it's the business we're in, mate. And it's not cruel really, because I think that you're rewarding those players by actually identifying before they play first grade. They might come into first grade and have a shocker. You don't know, but it doesn't. To my opinion, I couldn't care less of that. The other thing, when you bring a player into first grade, you got to leave them there. You can't bring them up and down. That's what they did with Sloan. That was wrong with Sloan. Now they've left him there. He plays well, and he'll get better because he's got all the skills. He's got pace, speed, but you can't bring him up and just up and then bring them back. I think you've got to leave them there for a period of time to show you actually believe in them. And that was Graham Bennett's greatest. His greatest thing is his management of people, as you know. And he used to always. I've heard so many coaches have benches to do this and that. His bench was there to play. He didn't care. They weren't there just to fill in or sit on the side. He played them. He wouldn't pick them, and he'd tell them that you're going to play. You know what I mean? And so what he does is they make the feel really part of. It's all right saying you're part of the 17 when you're on the bench, but if you only play 3 minutes or 11 minutes, you're not putting much faith in where they are you, really? That was Bennett's biggest thing. He could manage, or he could manage people,
We're going to take a quick break from the podcast to tell you about AG1, the daily foundational nutritional drink with all your needs in the one place. I like to look after my health, and AG1 takes care of that for me. No more tablets, vitamin pills, all the health nutrition I need, all in the one place. Every single morning, it's as easy. Open up the fridge, scoop of AG1 in a glass, cold water, stir it with a fork, drink it. It tastes great, and it helps me know. It gives me the peace of mind that all my nutritional needs are taken care of, all in the one drink. It really is as simple as that. And also, anybody that knows anything about health benefits knows that it comes with adding simple routines to your day. It's not about magic pills. They're not going to work. AG1 helps me be the best version of myself by having this new habit of every single morning having that drink. I know my nutritional bases are covered thanks to AG1. A lot of athletes are now taking AG1, and with 75 high quality ingredients, it's no wonder why. If a comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplement routine, then try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/buyround. That's drinkag1.com/buyround. Check it out. Mate, it's interesting to talk to you about the art of a deal. One of the deals that I've done some research on is the acquisition of Greg Inglis. It seems that was it was a unique deal, wasn't it? He obviously, Melbourne Storm leaves, then he's announced at Brisbane, but then the contract didn't get registered. Can you talk us through your memories from that?
Well, I'm close with him.
Obviously, you're very close with him now.
He lived with me 6 months after he signed. But what happened was I got a phone call from a mate of mine, Lou Zavanovic, who was at Penrith with me. He's a booster at Penrith, great guy. And he rang me and said, Richo, I think you're a chance of getting Greg Inglis. I said, piss off, Lou. He said, no, Richo, I think you're a chance of getting Greg Inglis. I said, his manager's a mate of mine, Alan Gainey, and I said, he's pissed off by the fact that he's been the one of the big four who's had to shift on. Like, it's his family. He's grown up since he was 16 with them. And now all of a sudden his family said, piss off. And it's become like a corporate deal. You move from this News Limited club to the other News Limited club, which is Brisbane. So from that point of view, there wasn't any real shopping round or doing, and he didn't feel wanted. He felt like it had to get rid of him out of Melbourne, and he had to go there, and he didn't want it. And I said, that's okay. So I fucking rang him. I said, mate, can you? I want to have a talk with you. And he said, yeah, no problems at all. So,
is this before he announced he was going there, or the announcement?
No, they announced that he was going there, and he was supposed to be flying there to to sign the contract, and he never turned up because he stopped off in Sydney with me. So we took him to the Hilton Hotel in Sydney, and I asked him to bring his parents in, and so his mum and dad came in. They're lovely people, and they were staying out at his at a place in Western Sydney. And anyway, so he comes in, Nick Pappas is there and me, and Greg's there. And I said to Russell, can you give Greg a ring? Just say that we love you at the club because that'd be nice, which Russell did, which was good and everything else. And Greg was there. And so we brought him into the Hilton Hotel. So he didn't go there. And so we're sitting there with, and I said, look, I'll give the pitch, the Richo pitch. We're an Indigenous club, mate. We'd love to have you. It's greatness, South Sydney. And his family were South Sydney supporters because of the Indigenous, but they didn't even know why they were there. They didn't even know why they were there. And I said, well, and Greg said, oh, yeah, okay. Richo's got something to tell you. I said, what do you mean? I said, well, your mum and dad are here. You tell them that I'm signing with South. Oh, he's signing with South. And that, honestly, that's how it happened.
Wow.
He said to me, Richo, tell him what we're going to do. Because he hadn't told me he was signing. And his mum and dad were genuinely shocked because they thought that he was going to Broncos. They were sort of completely taken aback, and so it was a difficult time, you know. And so and then he signed, and then he came and lived with us. He became my kid's big brother. They still call him big brother to this day, my little girl. So he's and that's exactly what happened.
So, but am I right in my?
He just wanted to be wanted, mate. Greg's always a guy who wants to be wanted and loved. You know, he felt he was loved and wanted in Melbourne, and he's still got an affinity with them. But he really felt aggrieved that in my opinion, he felt aggrieved that he was the one who had to move. He was the youngest, and you know he'd grown up, and you know, and he was the one who had to move, and it really hurt him. And it hurt him that I don't think he really felt that he had any decision making process in where he's going and what he was doing. And we showed an interest and care in him, and this is what we think you can do. You can become a great leader of the club, an Indigenous leader of the club. And I had a couple of Indigenous leaders ring him up, Sol Belair and people like that, who was one of the people who voted against Russell, by the way, on the board. And honestly, I think, and Greg's that guy. If he feels good about it, yeah, he has to feel good. He can't. That's why he still loves Queensland, mate. He feels that Queensland gave him his first representative starts, treated him well, and he was family to Queensland. So he's got no affinity to New South Wales. So why would I, just because I'm from, why would I play for New South Wales? My affinity, I played representative football from North and Brisbane under the Melbourne Storm at under 17s. You know, I made the schoolboy, so they never picked me any sides in New South Wales. Why, I'm a Queenslander. That's the way Greg thinks. He's loyal, mate. He's got an unbelievable loyalty factor.
Yeah. Am I right in my research, looking at the deal that Greg signed, it didn't get registered by the NRL straight away.
Because we're over the cap.
There's more complexities to this.
Oh, it was massive. So we went through the whole thing. We didn't know we were going to get him. He's going through getting married. He's going all this sort of rubbish.
But he signed a contract.
Yeah, he did.
But it didn't.
We put it in there, and they wouldn't register it because we were over the cap. And they were concerned about that we were giving him all this money on the side and which Russell was giving him, and which wasn't true, and they couldn't prove it. They investigated it all, and we had third parties for him, which were external with Indigenous Health and everything else. They went and interviewed all those people, Schubert, and it was bigger than 10 bears. And they couldn't find out there was anything wrong because there was nothing wrong with those third parties because they weren't people involved with the club, which we'd organised. Anyway, long story short. So we still couldn't get, but then they came back, well, you're over the cap, we're not going to. So a lot of clubs are over the cap, but they can get it cleaned up by the start of the season.
Yeah, or during the season, lot of late movement.
Yeah, but they didn't know, but Schubert was riding it hard.
Mate, but the game itself was genuinely close to losing one of its biggest stars.
Because Ian Robson, who is a great mate of mine, Ian Robson, who was, at the time he was CEO of Hawthorn, Essendon, like in the Aussie rules. And he'd made him offer to come. He thought he was going to be the next star and play for Essendon. He made him a huge offer, bigger than we were giving him, to come and play Aussie rules. But again, though, with that, you know what I mean? It was a little bridge too far for him because he likes to feel comfortable, Greg, and what he's doing. Anyway, so I'm battling right through it. So on Christmas Eve, I'm still trying to work around players or otherwise to move to. So on Christmas, because I had to get Melbourne Storm to agree to take one of our players. But more importantly, I had to talk to the player first and his manager.
Why Melbourne?
Because that's where we got Greg from.
Yeah, but why did the player
because Melbourne, I knew were looking for a player, and I knew that I had the player they would take on, but I had to convince the player and his manager, and then I had to convince Melbourne. Understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
To create the space in the cap.
Yeah.
The player was Bo Champion, who's great friends of Greg, Indigenous player, and a really great kid. They offered him a bit more money and longer term and extension and everything else. And so at 8 o'clock on Christmas Eve, Bo agreed, Ayub agreed, and Melbourne agreed. So at 8 o'clock on Christmas, I rang Greg up, mate, you're a rabbit. That's exactly what happened. On Christmas Eve at 8 o'clock, I rang Greg, because I've been working on trying to get him set all around the place. And because he was a good first grader, Bo. He was in Indigenous All-Stars and he's a junior, which was really hard to let him go. But he was he was about the money and no, that's wrong to say that. He's a good person, Bo Champion, but we couldn't have got Greg Inglis if Bo Champion hadn't made that decision.
How
and I'm still really close to Bo to this day, by the way.
How stressful is that for you
really
to see, like, mate, Christmas, like, even forget the fact that it's Christmas. Like,
Dad, when are you coming home? It's Christmas Eve. Yeah, no, it is. It's really stressful, but I knew
I can
that.
see you even now being like,
Well, I knew that if I didn't, when you're doing a deal, mate, when I'm on a deal, I do a deal. You know, I'm always one of these guys that knows as good as he is. You tell me no, beautiful, I'm moving on. But if I'm in an hour and I want to close the deal, I'll go to the end. Like Jai, I flew to Brisbane, went out there, met with his dogs and his girlfriend. And they nearly ate me, and his mentor, and we sat down and we talked it through, and I wouldn't leave until we had the contract done, you know. And so it's one of that, and it was the same as this. I knew we were close, and I would have had a shit Christmas Day if I was going to work, because it made people go back on contracts. So I wanted to get all the stuff sent through, the faxes sent through, and everything else, with all the deal done.
well, was anyone at NRL HQ to?
No, but I knew that once I'd done that, I was under the cap. So I knew they couldn't say no. They'd already said, if you get under the cap, we'll do the deal.
Yeah.
But you've got to get under the cap.
What was there, were you sweat? Was there any, because you can never, you probably don't want to relax until you've got that, like.
Oh, no, you didn't. That's what I'm saying. I couldn't have relaxed at Christmas without getting it done. So
yeah, but it's done in principle.
No, well, it's more in principle. They'd signed agreements.
Yeah, they signed agreements, but have they been lodged?
No, but agreement under law, a sign of agreement is a sign of agreement.
Right. Okay.
The only person who can reject the agreement is the NRL, and I knew they wouldn't
so
reject
you
the
were,
agreement.
Christmas Day was.
There was no. And also, I was good mates with David Gallup. I still am. We're best mates, and of course, he wouldn't go anything against Ian Schubert, but he'd said, if you get this done, we'll do the deal.
Well.
It was a big night. Well, I've done a few of those. Roy Asatazi was another one. He was actually the turning point when we signed Roy Asatazi from the Bulldogs.
Very good player.
Yeah, he was, and a great leader. We still got the Rookie of the Year is still the Roy Asatazi Rookie of the Year. So anyway, that's the story with Greg, and we're still close to this day. And you know, most of the players, I'm still really close with Isaac, Luke, and Johnny Sutton, and I'm really close with Adam Reynolds. So you know, that's what I mean. It's like a family. And you get them, but I've always had to be the dad, so I haven't. As I always say, I don't want to invite you to your wedding. I just want you to respect what I'm doing. That's all, because I don't want to be a friend. I can't be a friend because I've got to make decisions that aren't going to be good for you. Yeah.
What's it like when you've got to make those difficult decisions with a player that you've got a established relationship with?
I've got a saying, and I said it to my daughter this morning. She's going in for a pay rise this morning, and I say to her, "You've got to be firm, fair, and polite." That's all you've got to be, firm, fair and polite. You've got to be firm about your decision, fair about the way you're treating the person, and polite the way you handle it. Not angry, and don't get angry, don't get upset. And it's the same with players. It's not easy for them. And over the years, I don't know how many players, I had Rob Roberts throw a chair at me once at Hull, so 2 Bobs. But at the end of the day, if you treat them as really quality people, and treat them fairly and understand the emotions they're going to go through. And there's very rarely that I've had to sack a player, other than for discipline reason, where I haven't had discussions with them long before, or I haven't tried to find a place for them, or otherwise. You know, I remember when I first retook over South, and we had too many staff. We'd put on, they'd gone crazy with staff, and I had to put off 20 people. That was the hardest day of my life because none of them done anything wrong. It was just I had to retention, and my statement to them and to our own staff, who were their friends, was, if I don't do this, you're not going to have a job. And all of those 20 people, we found 10 other people jobs before they'd even left the club, because we weren't just throwing them aside. We're going to find them jobs somewhere else because they're good people. And some of them come back to work for us later on. But I think that's the thing about it. If you treat people properly, they may not like the decision, but they know what's going to come.
And they'll respect it.
And that's all you want. Because you're not their friend, because otherwise if you're a friend, you wouldn't be telling them to move on. It's never really a lot of times sacking. It's that they've got to move on, you know, that you've needed to move them on or they need to move on. There's no deal here for you. Yeah, that's right. And what we did was, mate, we always tell, in my time, we told people 18 months out that was going to be the go, that there's no deal here. You've got to understand clearly that I don't want you to get to then or next year, and we like most leave it with me. I'm coming back to it. We're trying to organise.
Yeah, we're just waiting on the cap. Yeah.
Instead of just saying,
we don't. The cap's not been set yet.
The cap's not been set yet. I'll come back to you. And all you're doing is making their family sit around longer and longer. Instead of saying, mate, to them and them, I don't think you're going to be here. And there's sometimes one player in particular who I did that to was still at the club, but because they made a decision when I left to change things around. But it wasn't that you didn't want, and he's a good player. It wasn't that you didn't want him. You had to fit the cap in. And who did you put into the cap? and you knew he was a very saleable asset, so he was a better chance. And you knew he was going to get more money and a longer term with another club than we were going to offer him. So it was better to tell him early, which he didn't like, but his manager liked it and his manager ended up finding 3 or 4 clubs, but he ended up staying at South. But my point about it is, though, I just still think you're better to make that call early so they understand what you're trying to do.
I think having hard conversations with people is the art of true leadership. Like, it's easy to accept the glory, but having those difficult conversations and setting a foundation that, hey, we all know where we stand here. I'd love to keep you here forever.
But you know how many weak people are in rugby league, mate?
Oh, mate, it's littered with them. Sorry, not littered. It's full of them.
They all think they're tough until you get down. And some of the toughest people you ever meet, they're not tough at all because they can't sit down and give the no answer. I can give the no answer. And my point about no is the sooner you tell them, it's like somebody being executed. The sooner you execute it, the better. Worse you want to be is sitting around for 3 months waiting to be executed. You know, and my opinion is if you're going to treat a person decently, you tell them straight up front. And I've got no, because I know that that's the only fair way of doing it. Elongating it or putting it off, once you've made the decision, it's like when we let Madge go. You know, it was the hardest decision. I brought Madge to the club. He won us the premiership all the time. I left the club. We won a premiership. But that year I went to, and when I came back, it became, we played Melbourne the last game of the season, and and I was always supportive of Madge on the way through, as you know, and he said to me, we got flogged by Melbourne, absolutely forget the score. And we sat in the hotel room and you go back in the bus and said, what do you think, Richo? I said, I'll tell you what I think, mate. I think you haven't lost the dressing room because they still like you. I said, but they're not listening to you anymore. That's a problem. And so we had a board meeting at the end. We didn't do anything there. We had a board meeting and I said to Madge, we're having a board meeting this morning, mate. A decision will be made on what we're going to do with you, even though I had another year to run his contract. I said, I'm just letting you know so we can talk straight away afterwards. I don't want anybody hearing about it or any board member leaking or anything else. So we met in my office straight away afterwards and I had to tell him, mate, we're going to have to let you go. I'm sorry, but but we're going to have to we're going to pay you for the full year for next year. That's not a problem or anything like that, mate. But and you'll get another job, but mate, we just feel that we need to move on. We just feel we need to move on and now's the time. So that was really hard. It was emotional. Madge didn't talk to me for a while. We talk now, and he's a great. I love Madge, and we wouldn't have won the premiership without Madge because he brought discipline to the club that we never had. And he's going to become a great coach in New Zealand. He's doing all these things. My point about it is it's not easy, but it's harder for them and you if you let it linger.
Well, mate, there's no worse state of being for a human being than not knowing.
Correct.
And being in limbo.
Correct. There's no respect for it.
Well, even when people have health issues, not knowing is the worst state you can be in.
Correct.
Even if the news is catastrophic, it's better to be in that state than be in the state of I don't know about my future, uncertainty.
Correct.
People hate uncertainty. You've got to look to eliminate uncertainty as best as you possibly can.
Yep.
Like, obviously, people are going to sit with their own thoughts and their own anxiety and stress. But if you can eliminate uncertainty and be a leader and say, this is where you stand. Wayne Bennett was very amazing at that.
Was. Very few
know
coaches
where you stand.
In my time, not very few, there's been a lot of coaches in my time who talk it tough but don't deliver. In other words, they don't give the bad news when they should give the bad news. John Lang was a good man at it, and so was Wayne Bennett. I got it, and some others who weren't as good over my period of time. Funnily enough, even though he's a funny, laughing character, Sean McRae could deliver. I never, but I don't know, tell you how many times I've had to deliver news to a player that should have been delivered by the coach. I don't know how many times, because I'm involved and privy to the decision-making process, and I need to bring it to an end. And if you're not going to do it, I'm going to have to. Because it's not against the coach. It's funny, when you get rid of a player, like when you're administrator. So let's look at Penrith. So at Penrith in 2013, we've come from fucking wooden spooners to become premiers in 2 years. Like amazing result. So at the start of the season, we've done our board with the coach and everything else. We've got to move Scott Sattler on. This is the start of the year. So all year, I've had to put up with save our Sat signs, coming out of dressing room, Richo, you're an arsehole, I can't believe you. And then what does Sattler do, the bastard? He comes up with the greatest tackle in the history of grand finals. But he'd known, so he got a 2-year deal with West Tigers with significantly more money than that. And he only lasted 6 months for the reasons we wouldn't extend. And mate, Scott Sattler and I are best mates to this day. We are best mates. I mean it. But we were honest with him. We told him early. He had plenty of opportunity to be able to see what he could do. But then he, as I said, the save our Sats people and the abuse and everything. But did they really think that the coach? Do they really think that Shane Richardson? It might be at West Tigers, but do they really think that Shane Richardson went to John Lang and said, "You've got to get rid of Scott Sattler"? No, of course not. I've never made a decision in my life that the coach didn't agree with on that sort of basis at that level. And he's a great bloke and everything else. But they don't want to blame John Lang or Wayne Bennett, or they want to blame, because it's easy to blame you because you're a Neville. They're not going to build a statue to you outside the ground.
It's easier to do that.
A lot easier. But if you're going to be an administrator, you've got to accept that. You're the bad guy. You've got to accept that. That just goes with the game. And my wife used to say to me all the time, I can't. Don't worry about it. I don't read social media, and I don't, unlike most coaches who say they don't do, or Wayne, or doesn't read the paper, but he does. But at the end of the day, it's if you can't handle that pressure and it comes water off a duck's back, you to move on. And, as I said, mate, every Sunday night you are held accountable by the fans, the board, the coaching staff, your family. I used to come home and say, I don't want to talk about it. I'd come home, and then Monday morning I was always my best on Monday morning after a lot, because I knew I had to be the guy, especially when some of the clubs I've been at were on the bottom. I had to be the guy say, where the Churchill on Monday. I was my best after losing. After winning, you don't have to do anything. Losing, you've got to get everything going. And once again, this is the path. We've had a little hiccup, but we keep going on the path. And all the staff have got to agree to it.
It sounds like you're really suited to this role. Like, it's not for everybody, is it? Like, it's a difficult position to be in, but you seem like you were attracted.
Well, it's probably my family, but my brother's really successful. I should have parlayed my IP a long time ago into what I'm doing. I'll probably be very, very rich, because my brother left school at 15. He's a multi-millionaire now. And but we both got the Wahoo Frank, which is my dad, Frank Richardson. But my dad was a stockman and became a slaughterman, became a foreman in meatworks. And my uncle was in the meatworks as a secretary of the Meatworkers Union in Queensland. So I come from that sort of labour working class. I worked every holiday from 13 onwards in meatworks, but all the way through to university. But my point about, they used to call Dad. There was an old show with some of the older viewers. I hope you've got a few would remember, called "Have Gun Will Travel." It was at Western, and they used to call Dad "Have Authority Will Fire," because he had this amazing ability amongst all these tough meat workers to lead them and confront them, because he could if they wanted to fight, well, he'd fight you, but you were going to have to fight him to the death. You know what I mean? Like, he was never going to not get up. My point about it was that he taught me. I used to work for all those years in the meatworks with Dad as the foreman, and all these rough-gutted bloody criminals and drunks, and mate, they all had this unbelievable respect for my father, because he treated them correctly, he treated them loyally, he made sure that pecking order was right, and he never sacked people who didn't deserve it. And I learned from all those years there, where they used to, and of course I was this foreman's son, they hang me on the hooks in the meatworks and throw me up and down, rub me through the gelatin on the floor. I had to work, all these sort of things. And I work with these Welsh in the freezers, like it's nothing, all day in a freezer, packing all the packing goods and that. But I used to play, I used to think I was a 500 player, but I used to play with these, because the Welshmen were the only blokes who do the freezer stuff, see? So these 5 big Welshmen worked at the freezer, and I played with them in the breaks 500. Yeah, and then, of course, and then I learned about all the errors of not calling the joker with 6 no trumps. If you don't, have you got the aces? You call 6-8, because they get me in, they punch me in the shoulders, they throw me out, throw cards in my face, they throw me up and down the floor if I didn't call properly. What I'm trying to say, they were really good to me, but I learned that you don't make those mistakes, and you don't treat these people like idiots, because they. So I learned and so did Perry, from an early age, about dealing with men. And our games is a working class game, mate. The best players, they don't come from bloody Potts Point. They come from Campbelltown, and then because I'm used to working with those blokes, so I understand their mentality and what they're thinking, and I also understand that if you're dealing with a 110 kilo front rower, if you're not going to treat them with respect, you're going to get your head knocked off. Because at the end of the day,
don't bullshit me.
Don't bullshit me, and don't tell me crap that I know you're crapping to me. So that's what I'm sort of saying. It was quite funny with Two Bobs. I had a sack. We put Hull and Gateshead together, so we had to get rid of a fair few players. And he was like one of those players that English people love and I hate. They sing songs to him because he had the offload, he had the little flick pass, he had the little chip kick. Like he's 110 kilos in chip kicking. And I'm sitting there going, and they didn't like Tony Grimaldi. Like Tony Grimaldi is the best player I've just about ever had. 45 tackles, 22. But he wasn't fancy enough. So I called him in. And I said to him, mate, we're going to have to let you go. And he said, Two Bobs, you were going to let me go? They sing songs to me on the hill. And I said, man, I don't care if they sing songs to you on the hill, you're going. So he got up and he picked the chair up and threw it at me. And I think Bob was in the room with me. And it hit me and I went back and he said, what do you think of that? And I said, well, all you've done is made it a lot easier for me to sack you because you're not going to get any compensation at all. Because I could take you in the police station now for just get out of the office, champ. No money, you're gone. And he went out of the office and went because he knew it was assault. Oh, you slipped my head open. My point about it is, though, is that, there's certain characteristics in people that you don't need in your organisation. And and that's why Wayne said he doesn't want people in his organisation who won't work and won't work hard. And people ask me all the time, what's the secret to success in sport? Working hard. There's no other reason for it. I mean, if you look at the career of Bellamy, mate, he was an average player who made the 17 most weeks or 15 most weeks because he worked his ass off as he does now. And it was hard to leave him out, and he was a team man. Wayne Bennett was the same. All great players, all great coaches have got that work ethos, and all great administrators have got that work ethos. I can't remember the last long lunch I went, but there'd be a few CEOs out there in particular I know who will have long lunches most weeks. But I got a rule. I don't drink at games ever, even now, because I'm there to watch the footy. I never drink at games, and after the game I don't drink. I might have a beer with the boys, otherwise they pour it over your head. But so you might do that. But I don't drink at game because I've got to be on deck. I'm still at work, and I'm still at work till when I get home. Out comes a Chardonnay and a fish fingers, and I'm on the way there. But I don't drink. I don't drink during the day. I never drink during the day. I never drink until 5:30. I love a schooner. So I'm not saying I'm not a drinker, but that's just the way I live my life, I get up every morning and wash my face in cold water and brush my teeth because the old man was a meat worker. He used to get up at 5 a.m. every morning, and I've never been able to get out of that habit. That's why I'm an early riser, but I go to bed early, It's just the things that you get in and disciplines in life that fit in with what your job is, and that's what coaching was good. Administrating was good.
It's quite the story about your upbringing, that. So you start at Souths in 2004. You're on this pathway, a couple of snakes, diversions. Yep. 9 years later, so close against Manly. I remember speaking to Sam about that, and he still holds on to that. Finally, you reach.
I'll just tell you the Manly game. There's a true story. I used to always say I bought a dog so that I could kick it when I come after losing, which, by the way, I love my dog. I never did, but that's why I bought a dog. That night, it was hiding under the lens because it knew it was going to get. So I went straight in the bedroom. I didn't have a drink or anything else, and mate, I spent 36 hours in the bedroom by myself. That's how shattered I was because I was just so sure we were going to win that, and I had to get myself built up again to go forward and recognise the fact that we'd done well to get where we were. But what I'm saying is that's the one factor you show that you don't show people. That's how bad I felt. I couldn't
depressed.
I was just so depressed because I thought all this work is finally, and you don't get chances. See, people talk about, you keep making the four. How many times, if you could be making the four every year, you never lose your job. And you've only won one. So what? You can't win the premiership unless you make the four. So we were away 2 years in a row from that in that preliminary final, but the first one was I couldn't live with it inside because I thought that was our chance, and to lead South to greatness, because that's what I took South on for. There was no more money or all the other bullshit that went on. I just come from a premiership club. We'd taken but to take South on, the greatest club in the history of the game, and lead them back to greatness. Oh, I couldn't let that go. So when we got beat that day, because I thought that was going to be the time, that was our time.
It would have been a Roosters final as well.
Yeah, it would have been. So
could you, Matt?
Yeah, it was just. Anyway, we knocked out the Roosters to win it, but anyway, yeah. So it was a tough time, but it was a good time. You just have to kick yourself in the face and wake up yourself. My wife came and said, "You've been an idiot. I don't know why you're doing this. You're full of shit. Get downstairs." All right, I better go down there.
Yeah, it's funny how, like, despite it only taking an extra 12 months, like speaking to two South Sydney influential figures, just how much that cut.
Yeah, it did. It did. It was an amazing session that Madge did. That's why he's a great coach, mate. Don't worry about it. Sometimes he can be a little over the top, but he's learning, and we would never have won it without him. But, you know, we had this session in the basement of one of the clubs at Maroubra, and it was a really shitty rounding and everything else. And Madge got up John Sutton to say how that affected him and what he wanted to do. And, mate, honestly, he cried for 20 minutes. And what he did that day was just set the whole emotions of, we got to win this. You know, because we can't do this, and I've got tears now. But it was just so emotional that Johnny Sutton, because Johnny Sutton, as you know, is one of the most casual dudes the world's ever seen. You know, so you never know what Johnny Sutton's thinking until he crosses the line. Then he's a different world. But mate, he was so that they were the sort of things that Madge was able to bring out in people that which ended up winning us a premiership.
Yeah,
you know?
That day at ANZ Stadium, the first Sunday. In October 2014. Can you describe how it felt for you as the CEO of that club?
My son sitting next to me and my best mate. How did it feel? It felt, well, people will say things that feel surreal, but it was sort of, the impact of winning it was there, and it was absolute, but it was an amazing sense of relief. It was like my whole body sort of, it wasn't a feeling of euphoria. At the time, when we won it, it was a feeling of absolute relief that after all this hard work, and you have no idea of the struggles we had to get to where we got, but all this work we find, and more importantly, that we had like 3/4 of the grandstand was our supporters, and they had gone through the grief with us. So the emotion at the time was more relief, and I got this great photo with me and my sons and John Richardson, who's no relation, but he's the marketing manager. But it just, and I didn't go the walk because I don't believe CEOs should walk around. That's the players and the coach. I don't believe, that's my opinion. I don't believe CEOs should do it and I don't believe they should be there with the trophies. And I never got a photo with a team photo in my life. In any club I was at, I never got, you know, when they have the team photo at the start of the year, to me, that's not my job. That's the team. I'm away from that. You can't say you're away from it and be that. So that was really surreal, and it never. And I had what's his name over there, Chris Clasley. We flew him across for it. Don't tell the salary cap orders. And then so that was really surreal, and we obviously had all my family down for it, and so I really didn't get it until I went back to the club. Until then, in the dressing room, I didn't know. And the best part of winning a grand final, as you know, mate, from Saints and that, is sitting in that dressing room. There's everything else afterwards, because in the dressing room, you're there with the blokes who did it with you, and that's the best beer. There's no better beer. You can get on Mad Mondays and all of it. There's no better beer than drinking that. And so that was wonderful. And then we had the bus through Redfern, which was crazy with, you know, all the wonderful Indigenous families who were there. Just, you know, this is like, how could that have ever? And then back to the juniors, which was just crazy players surfing, you know. So the bottom line is that it wasn't a sense of euphoria; it was a sense of relief, and it was a satisfaction. The euphoria came 2 or 3 days later, because then I got the Richo True Believers together on the piss at the Clover Valley Hotel. Now that was euphoria.
Isn't it funny, like human emotion? Yeah. When you think like your team wins a grand final and you have the emotion of relief, as opposed to euphoria, ecstasy, joy.
It was, and it was the same when we won it at Penrith. It was, it was more. It was, you know, it was. It's funny because you as an administrator, the team thinks about the team really. I mean, they have the fans and they have their families. I'm not saying that at all. But they don't have to think about the board. They don't have to think about the members. They don't have to think about the sponsors. They don't have to think about any of those things at all, which is fine because they shouldn't. They should focus on one thing. I used to say to Wayne, your job's to win on Sunday, Wayne. My job's to win for the next 3 years. And so you've got all that. So when you win like that, the team's won it and they deserve all the greatness with it. And people will say, it's not that you haven't got an ego about it, but from my point of view, it was like, thank God for that, the job's done. You know what I mean? It's like that. You know, I'm just glad that's done. You know, and I look forward to my holiday. We went to the same place for 23 years for a holiday, well, 23 times for a holiday. Because when I have a holiday, I just want to know I can go there, no football, no annoyances, no what's the name, read my book. You know, I don't want to talk to anyone. I just want to do that because that's my whole letdown. You know.
Do you get to turn your phone off on holiday?
I do. Well, the only time I didn't when we had to hire Wayne, but that's another story. But yeah, I do. I don't take any phone calls.
Do you let people know that that's what you?
Yeah.
How long do you switch off for?
2 weeks.
Completely off the grid.
Yep.
Wow.
It's a funny.
Is that the only time of year you get to do that?
Yes. No question mark about that at all. It's the only time of the year.
Because this always intrigues me. This, like, you know.
Well, the island I went to originally didn't have any Wi-Fi.
Oh,
so
even better.
that was one of the messages when Russell decided I had to go back and take over the things there. When I got back, there was like 33 messages from Russell and Nandy when I got back to Nandy. You know, bing, 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 bing. But my point about it was that there was no Wi-Fi. Now they got Wi-Fi, which is a pain, but it's only up in the foyer. So if you're down in your little hut, there's no Wi-Fi there, so it's beautiful. You can't, and there's no
service.
No service. So unless you go up top and want to tune in, I used to go up now. I tune in every 3 days, and I pick up the emails, or they know the people that matter can ring the resort and they'll come down and get me. But no one's ever had to do that. Oh, they did once. Our dog died, so that was one time they did that. But other than that, and they know me, and they're really big. We actually sponsor the Tokariki 7-a-side side and tournament and all that sort of stuff. And they play in old South jerseys, and so we're all a bit of a I wouldn't say a celebrity, but we're a bit of. But they just leave me alone. They don't talk football to me, even though they're mad, and they don't. But and I don't want to talk to anybody. You know, my brother will go away to any place, and within 15 minutes, the whole bar knows him. He's mates with him. He's mates with him. He's going around.
Yeah, everyone knows his life story.
Well, somebody comes up to me, and you know, a woman will come up one day to me. I was lying down on the side. And she said, "Do you have the time, sir?" And I said, "Do I look like a fucking clock?" And I was still regales that story because I don't want to talk. I don't want to tell you. I haven't got my watch on because I don't care about the time. You know. But I mean, that's the only way you get to relax because otherwise, mate, it's so. But I learned a long time ago in my career in business that you think that you can't go away and you can't be there, but that's your poor leadership qualities, because it's still standing there when you get back. It's still going on, and what you've done is put a complete lack of trust in the people underneath you. Because if you can't go away for 2 or 3 weeks and the world collapses, well, you've done a poor job in your leadership.
Charlie, I'm having 3 weeks off in January, pal. Yeah, so being a CEO, not much time away. You spoke there, or time to fully switch off, take no phone calls. But you spoke about the leadership aspect of things with that. You briefly mentioned the one time you did need to come away from the time away was the getting Wayne Bennett over the line. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, well, we were on the way to Tokarika, my wife and I, for the end of the season, because we're going through the bullshit with Anthony Seibold and his manager and everything else, and was he or wasn't he going to go? And I'd had a gut feeling he was going to go, but I was hoping he wouldn't. But it was, and as he will admit, was the worst decision he ever made. You know, he had a great team and a great club behind him. But anyway, that was disappointing. But I was in the airport and I got a phone call. It was quite amazing. I got a phone call from his manager. Not from him, from his manager saying he's made a decision to go to the Broncos. So I'm in the airport waiting to get on the plane, and that phone call happens. And so it's a good way to start my holiday because, you know, no coach. The next minute, it's amazing, and it was a coincidence. I get a phone call from Shane Edwards, who was the ex-CEO of the Broncos and a great friend of Wayne's. He said, and a good friend of mine, he said, Richo, he said, would you be interested in Wayne Bennett being the coach if Seibold moves? And I said, well, strange enough, Seibold is moving. I said, yeah. But man, I'm not bringing Wayne. I've been down that track before with Wayne, and and from my point of view, if Wayne wants to, because he was over in England with the English side, and he said if Wayne wants to, he can ring me up and we'll have a chat. And I said, but that's up to him though, you know, because I'm going on holidays. And so anyway, I'm still in the airport and the plane was delayed, and then I got a phone call 5 minutes later from Wayne from England saying, Richo, I'm interested in this job and what's your thoughts? And so I said, well, there's a few things, Wayne. We've got to talk about, I'm not interested in the money. I just want, I think it's a good side and I'd like to coach South. And then after the following year, because Seabold had a year to go on his contract, but we were always, so anyway.
It was
So and he had a year to go on his Brisbane, and he didn't want to leave the players, and he didn't. So that was all right. So I thought, all right. And I knew at the time Russell and the board weren't overly impressed because the last time when Wayne let us down when he went to Newcastle, So long story.
Oh, you were involved in
I was in
that
negotiation
well,
with that. So with the great Miner. So I said, okay, I'll get to Tokarika. I'm about to get on a plane. I'll ring you back. So I'm ringing back. We had a conversation for a couple of days. And I said, what I'll do is I'll organise when I get back to Sydney to fly over to see you about it. You know what I mean? Because it'll give me time to talk to people and everything else. So long story short, I organised that, booked the flights and everything else to fly into Manchester and then get a train to Liverpool. And that morning I fell over and broke all the bones on the top of my limb frank bones across my foot. And it was like a balloon. While I was on the island, I had to go around in a wheelchair. But when I got back, I knew that it needed to be operated on. But I thought, I'm not going to be able to go overseas with a casket and everything else. So I thought, well, I'll just go and do this before I go to the doctor. So I got on a plane. I had to get my foot packed in ice all the way over. I couldn't put a shoe on. So I got over there, got over to Liverpool, Dale was there as well, his partner, and we agreed on the terms and everything else. And I said, but it's still got to be approved by the board and rah. So, but we'd sort of done the deal. So within 72 hours, I was back home. So I got out of there. We had dinner that night, which he didn't pay for. I think he's ever shared in his life, by the way. But so I got back home, got back to Liverpool by train, hobbling along, and then got home, and then had an operation, and I was 6 months in a wheelchair.
Really?
Oh, they nearly cut my foot off because I didn't help by going over there.
Well, no, flying is one of the worst things you can do.
Yeah, so I've got pins all across here and 2 pins in my foot, and for 6 months and I've still got it. I could take it off now. I've still got it today. But that was all the drama that was going on while Wayne was trying to do the deal with Wayne. So.
How did you pitch it to the board to get them over the line? Wouldn't they especially if they felt they'd been banned?
I pitched it to Russell first because if Russell decided that he didn't like the idea, and then I just said to Russell, I said, look, mate, we've got a team that's made a preliminary final. I said, so we've got a good football team. I said, we had a coach and we've got and see what had happened was we had two coaches when Madge we had let Madge go. We had two coaches, Dave Ferner and Anthony Seabold. So I had him, and with my thing about succession, I thought I need to choose one of these guys. So I interviewed him, but we didn't. And so at the end of the day, I thought Seabold was the way to go, and Dave Ferner was really good about it. But then Dave got offered Leeds and left. So really, if Seabold left, probably if Dave Ferner had been there, we would have reappointed Dave Ferner in the job, because he's a good man, Dave Ferner, great man. So the bottom line was that I said, we've got a team that's ready to win now, mate. And that's why Wayne wants to come here. He knows that. I said, he can handle the big personalities. I said, so, for us to knock back Wayne Bennett, especially at what he's asking for, and I think we can do sort of a deal with Brisbane on this, I said, it would be ridiculous. And so Wayne went down and saw Russell. Russell fell in love with him. And then the board, there was little difficulties on the board, but they ended up agreeing. And so the deal was done. But it was only supposed to be, and then we had to sit down and do this part of the deal. We had to then negotiate with Brisbane because we didn't really want Seabold to be there for another 12 months as a lame duck. And they certainly didn't want Wayne there as a lame duck. So it was one of those, who's going to fold first? And they did. So after Blake and I worked really well together. That was a great piece of negotiation, Blake, Solly and I. I was dealing with Wayne and Blake was dealing with their chair and that side of things. So good guys, bad guys, cops in between, and in the end, he was supposed to come to us on the Friday, announce it, and then they did something wrong to him. That he was always about not letting the players down. He really was, but then they'd done something wrong to him, so he pulled the pin on the Friday about making an announcement. And of course, they panicked. And then they hadn't sacked him. They weren't going to, because they didn't really want to sack him because they wanted to pay him out. So I'm sitting there going, sack him, because a little bit of help on that side. But the bottom line was they texted him on the Sunday and told him that rang him on the Sunday. He was in the park with his son, told him he was sacked. And he rings back because he rang me on the Saturday. He said to me, Richo, what do you think's going to happen now? I said, well, if I'm in charge, I'd be sacking you. That's what I'd be doing after what you did yesterday.
What did he do again?
Oh, he at the press conference, instead of resigning, he actually give it to them, at the press conference. So it was supposed to be a press conference set up for him saying, I'm going to leave, and we've made a mutual agreement and going to the South. And he said, no, I'm not going now. And I won't tell you a reason why, but there was a reason why, a text message he got by mistake. And because he was all about his own staff, making sure they had jobs.
Yeah.
They had another 12 months to go on all their contracts, and he wanted to make sure they had jobs. So I won't go into detail on that, but at the end of the day, he justifiably so. But they just had enough by then. So, and then we were able to do the deal with Seabold to go there, and Wayne came over to us. So it was beautiful. It was a deal made in heaven, and financially a deal made in heaven too.
Happy days. All right. Well, we have 4 parts of the show that we ask each and every guest. The first one of those is the Dream Spine. Big thanks to Tooheys for partnering with us. Tooheys are all about teamwork. Teams need spines. You've spoke about a number of players throughout your journey. So just interested to get, and there are no rules with this whatsoever about the Dream Spines, the 1, 6, 7 and 9 that you've...
Well, I picked the Dream Spine from the teams I've been involved with over 30 years, from Cronulla, Hull, Penrith, South. So from out of those, and been some great players in those sides and some great players. But I think my Dream Spine would be probably Paul Green at halfback from my Cronulla days, Preston Campbell at 5'8" from Penrith days, GI at fullback from that days, and Isaac Luke at hooker. That'd be the 4 I'd pick. And don't get me wrong, I mean, we had a Churchill medal with Pritis, who was a great player as well, and halfback's Craig Gower, who's captain, decided to a grand final. But I just felt that pound for pound, that Paul Green was such an outstanding player, and had such a gloried career. But also Preston Campbell's a genius. I mean, he's the sort of players that people pay money to go and see, and Isaac Luke was just one of the toughest, most
It was
loyal,
a very, very good dummy half.
Yeah, he was, and he was a tough defender. He's too tough. He got suspended lifting and all sorts of things, but mate, he couldn't help himself but put in. He was just couldn't help himself but put in. And he was a very funny character, still is, and of course GI is a genius. Wayne Bennett summed GI up when I spoke to when he was coming to South. Said, Richo, he's a once in a lifetime athlete. See, GI could have been an Olympic swimmer. He could have played cricket for Australia. He's one of the few Indigenous players that I've ever met was a champion swimmer, but he was just one of those great athletes. Anything he took, golf, he's outstanding at golf, snooker. Anything you want to pick up, because you know what? He can't help but win. And he's a cheating bastard. He'll stand over the hole when you're playing shots. The things that annoy you, all that.
The dark arts of sport.
He's got to win. Go. But, there's been some great players, and you hate to narrow them down.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they'd be the spine.
Well, thanks to Tooheys for that. That is a magnificent spine. So we've got GI at fullback, Green and Campbell halves partnership, and Isaac Luke at dummy half. Not bad.
Yeah. Isaac's done well to keep out a few players in that group, especially Pritis and also Cookie as well. So
yes, Damien Cook, who was on the other week actually. Fascinating chat. Very good fella. This is a tough one for you. If football didn't exist, what do you think you'd be doing?
My background's commerce and university and everything else. So I would have probably, and I was state manager of a finance company, AGC. I had about 1,000 people work for me in AGC when I moved on. So I probably would have risen. AGC was eventually then taken over by the Westpac Bank. So I would say I would have had a career in finance, but my thing was always I was ability with the figures and finance, obviously, but I obviously I was a good leader. Everywhere I went, that's why I rose so quickly. I was the youngest ever state manager, which which was good and bad. You get a bit carried away with your own ego when things like that happen. But I think that's what it would have been. But it would have been some role in leadership. I'm one of those guys, when people are, I even put my hand up to coach my son's under-8 side. The worst decision I ever made in my life. I was the worst under-8s coach anyone's ever seen. I had everything mapped out, all the witches had. Then I realised that all I wanted to do was play touch. So we've just played touch for the rest of the season. I always say to people, I wanted to be a great player and I wasn't. I was far from it. Winning a premiership in the country is not a great player. I wanted to be a great coach. I wasn't a bad coach, won reserve grade premierships, coached in Cairns in first grade. And so I wasn't bad, but I was never great. But I became my niche. I found my niche as an administrator. So
yeah, so definitely no under-8s trainer. Do you have the set of values that you stick by, or
look, my values are really based around being honest with people and leadership. But being honest with people and have a set way of dealing with things and situations, and trying to get better. I've learned over the years that I was always, and still am to a certain senses, I don't listen enough, and the great skill in the world of communication is listening, and I've got better at it, but I'm still not great at it. I've got a temper, which sometimes can get me into trouble, but one thing I've learned about all of those things is when I make a mistake, I'm not the guy, I know immediately afterwards that I've done something wrong or I've made a mistake, and I don't let it linger. I'll ring the person straight away, say, I shouldn't have said that. I've done the wrong thing. I apologise, because if you've done the wrong thing, you've got to be that sort of guy. And so I think I'm honest with people. I'm a good communicator. I love leading people. They're probably my best traits. And also I work really hard. I can't help but work really hard. So, but sometimes it's detrimental to the family, by the way. But that's probably the things that I do. So,
who would be the most interesting person you've met on this journey?
No doubt, Russell. Russell always says he wanted to be a footballer first. He never quite made it there. He'll tell you how good. He's got a nice step and a little dome, but he's not. Then he wanted to be a singer. Had his own rock band and Kid Rock, and he's he's still got his own band today, which he thrills the world with because he loves that. And the third thing he wanted to be was an actor. Well, as it turned out, he's a Academy Award-winning actor. I like his voice. People bag it. I think he's good, by the way. And I went to his latest concerts here in Sydney, and obviously as a footballer, he's in my category. So he's. But look, the thing about Russell that's interesting about Russell. Russell is a good listener. He's one of the best listeners of all time. You think Russell's forgotten things? He's never forgotten things, and he's a deep thinker, and he doesn't. He has emotional times like I do. But he's a bit like Fonzie though. He's unlike me. He's a bit like Fonzie. He can't say sorry, but he's a good man. He's really loyal. He's been a great mentor to me, and hopefully I've been to him. But I've got nothing good things to say. But he's introduced me to so many people. Like you'll come along to breakfast and meet me for a coffee at what's the name, and there'll be Arnold Schwarzenegger sitting there. Or you know what I mean? Like you'll be walking along the park, and everybody's putting. I remember one day, people were putting shit on him. I wanted to belt him. Richo, don't worry about it, mate. Like he's just so in control, and he's a great family man. He loves his kids, and he loves his mum and dad. His dad unfortunately has died. And his mum's wonderful. So he's true to himself. He's one of the few actors who actually lives in Australia. He loves where he lives. He's got a beautiful farm, which is not over the top at all. He raises cattle. He barbecues at his place for dinner. He's down to earth guy. There's nothing false about Russell at all. Russell's Russell, but sometimes it's not always good. But it's a lot more good than I am. So it's a good place to be.
Final question. A sliding doors moment you think about the alternative happening. So, for example, for me, it may be something like if I had stayed in England. Sometimes think about what life would be like.
I've got a funny sliding boarding moment because John Lang and I, this strange person from Cronulla gave us the start. Like we were never a chance. Well, he might have been because Lang had been a great player. But, I wouldn't have been. And to be honest, Langy said, if I'm going to Brisbane, I'm going to Sydney, Richo's got to come too, I'm not going. So So all of a sudden, so I'm dropping 50% in pay, a free house loan, all this to go down to take my dream on. So that was a sort of sliding door, and I didn't think it was going to happen. And as it turned out, if we hadn't been so good at our jobs, we could have been gone in 6 months because it was a strange world down there in financial world. But the funniest part, I come to train, because Dram was an electrician, and he did electrical things at the club. And I come to train, and this is after we've been announced, so we're going down there. And I come to train, and I said, where's Langy? And they said, oh, he's up on the pole fixing the light. I said, he's what? I said, Langy, you idiot. Our whole lives are in front of us, and you're fixing a light 50 feet in the world. Get out of here. That was my sliding door, mate.
Oh, that's brilliant. Shane, thank you so much. I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. There's so much we didn't get a chance to get through, but it's been fascinating. Your leadership style, talking about your path, that it's on how you get on a path, the cream. Yeah, I'm sure our listeners will be loving hearing this. It was incredibly insightful and a real learning piece for everybody. And again, there's no substitute for hard work.
There's not. No substitute. All right, mate. Thanks very much, mate. Thanks, Jabba.